B'Shem Hashem Naaseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We are back on a Wednesday night, Stop the Rabbi. Where Be'ezrat Hashem will give you a few chidushim. Tonight will be a little bit about Pesach. Then whatever questions you have, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Be'ezrat Hashem, will give us the answers. Tonight's shiur will be for a refuah shlema for Doris bat Jora, David ben Nesriya, Rabbi Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Riva bat Bracha, Moshe ben Ala, Rachel bat Yoshua, Shirel bat Rachel, Elnatan ben Rachel, Yosef ben Avraham, Zion ben Victoria, Sarah bat Sausan, Michal bat Yael, Esther bat Tzipora, Avigail bat Surya, Stefan ben Katarina, Yitro ben Avraham, Talia bat Sarah, Orit bat Ilana, and also for a Atzlacha Rabba for David ben Nesriya, Oshri ben Doris, Gabi ben Doris, Elad ben Doris, Shaul ben Farzane, Marsha bat Julie, Ayla bat Marsha, Samuel ben Marsha, and Alexander ben Marsha. Reuven Chaim ben Pala Parel, Shmuel Yitzchak ben Pala Parel, Naftali Tzvi ben Pala Parel, and Rachel bat Pala Parel, and all of Am Yisrael, especially the ones that help us publicize the Torah, to continue doing all the things that we're doing to help those that need spiritual growth, or those that need even financial growth, where we're helping Baruch Hashem thousands upon thousands of people each year at least have some food and clothing and different things during the holidays and different times during the year. A little bit of a short update. The movie Tikkun ha-brit Be'ezrat Hashem is only days away. I'm not really sure if everyone really understands the magnitude of what's coming in the next few days. But Be'ezrat Hashem, after you watch that hour-and-a-half movie, you're going to understand that the world will never be the same after that, because everyone, no matter where you grew up and how you grew up and what you knew and what you didn't know, will have something available to them that can give them a solid foundation of the magnitude of the covenant that we have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's called the Brit. The Brit being not just Shabbat, the Brit not just being the Torah itself and things like the Tefillin, but the Brit being the Brit of the person, which is something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu expects Am Yisrael to preserve only for their wives when they're permitted to each other, but even obligates the Goyim, the Noahides, that want to go to Gan Eden, to also keep this Brit and not waste seed and do things that are forbidden. And we learn it from the Chachamim that one of the examples that you see in the Torah, which is that Hashem punishes because of the Brit, is in Parashat Noach. You know, the generation of Noach was a generation of wicked people that we're doing a lot of bad things, but ultimately the Zohar Kadosh says the straw that broke the camel's back was that they were wasting seed, they were promiscuous, they were making a homosexuality not only accepted among society but even celebrated, very similar to today, Hashem Yishmor, and Hashem destroyed the world, even though the Torah in essence was not given to the world. Same thing goes with Erev Rav, the sons of Yehuda. Hashem killed both of them for wasting seed, even though they were both married. They each one thought that they could do whatever they want, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed us a real life example of no, you can't do whatever you want. You could only do whatever you want if there's a permissible way to do it. And so when it comes to promiscuity, morality in general, it's one of the most important lessons that a person has to have in their life. And that movie, Bezat Hashem, will be a entertaining, invigorating, inspiring way for people to learn about Tikkun ha-brit. And of course, we have dozens and dozens of shiurim about this particular topic, that once a person watches the movie, he can then go and watch the full extended lectures to see much more material about it. But nonetheless, that movie, Bezat Hashem, is coming up on Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We will also be releasing a brand new website called tikkunhabrit.org, TIKKUNHABRIT.org, O-R-G, where you'll be able to watch this movie there as well. The Be'ezat Hashem phone app that's on the iOS and the Android is also going to be getting a major update in the next 48 hours. So that will also have the Tikkun ha-brit movie on it. And of course, our YouTube channel that continues, Baruch Hashem, to grow. And just this month, apparently the numbers have grown exponentially. I believe it's not only the biggest month we've had, but the biggest percentage growth in 1 month ever, Baruch Hashem. For anyone that is not subscribed to the YouTube channel, if you already are using YouTube, subscribe to the channel, because this will at least give you an update of each day that we're releasing new videos. In the morning, there are typically short videos that can give you a little bit of a spiritual boost to start off your day. And then 3 times a week, there's the longer videos of the full lectures like this one, Bezat Hashem. But one of the things we noticed is that almost 80% of the people that are watching our lectures on YouTube are not subscribed to the channel. So the subscribers that we have there, something around 20,000 subscribers on that channel, are only generating a small percentage of the actual views. Most of the views are people that are not subscribed to the channel. So it behooves you to subscribe. It's free, and most importantly, it'll give you a constant reminder of the things that you need to learn for you to get a spiritual uplift for the day. And Baruch Hashem, we have a couple of thousand lectures that every one of us, including myself, needs to catch up on. Anyway, so we have this major movie coming up. It's not too late to be partners with us in this movie. As I said last night, this movie is going to be the biggest project we've ever done, bigger than the personal life story movie, which Baruch Hashem reached a few million people already. But this will be much bigger, and I believe that the budget is bigger, the ideas are bigger, the technology is bigger, everything is bigger, and there are quite a few smart people that know how to invest their money, that are donating it and in a generous way to help us market this movie and make sure that it reaches every single corner in the world. There's going to be a major boost from the start. But we're expecting to have this marketing continue at full force for as long as the Kadosh Baruch Hu allows us to do it. So whether you have the few hundred or few thousand or a few 100,000, whatever your financial blessing is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whether you have that money available now or you have it available next week or next month, you have an opportunity to be part of the most inspiring movie that's hit the Torah world in, if not ever, at least in decades. Simply because this is over a decade since Torah and Science by Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi Sheikhye. But this is a movie that I'm telling you, it's just one of those things where I can't speak highly enough about it. And I know people think, oh yeah, it's selling it. Once you see it, you'll understand. There's no selling needed. I'm just honestly trying to help some of you get in while it's a opportunity. You could also invest in it 5 minutes after it's published, or 5 days after it's published, or 5 months after it's published. But of course, the ones that get in on the earlier ones are the ones that are going to get the biggest boost, the biggest share, simply because they will be part of the views. Every single person that views that movie changes their life, starts doing complete tshuva finally. This is going to go to their merit. Every single view, every single person that watches it. So it's a highly, highly recommended for people to invest in it. But again, you're doing it for yourself, not for me or anybody else. As a side note, for the few tzaddikim out there that have their YouTube channels and have asked me if I could send them the file, the movie, so they could actually put the movie on their channel. The answer is no. I can't send it to you because the movie is specifically meant to stay on our channel and not to be distributed in other channels. This is obviously something we invested a lot of time and money into, and there's a lot more than just views that we're looking for. We're obviously looking for people to watch this movie and then be inspired to watch many of our other movies and lectures and so on. So when you have it on somebody else's channel that has other content on there that's not ours and not controlled by us, it doesn't work. So please don't put us in an uncomfortable position where we have to shut down your channel because you are stealing our content. I'm specifically telling people, do not put this on your channels or websites. If you really, truly want to do the right thing and promote this, then simply promote our channels. Promote the app, promote the website, the YouTube link, and so on and so forth. If you really want to do it for the sake of Hashem, for people to do tshuva, then it should make no difference to you whether you're promoting it by using our links or by using your links. The problem is that many people pretend like they want to do it for Shamayim, but in reality, if you tell them that you can't put things on their channel, it's like, oh, okay, then I'm not going to do it. Oh, so you really don't want to do it. So that's the key. It's important to know that there's a lot that goes into things, and this is also the reason why for all of those chutzpanim that like to ask questions that are inappropriate, that's also the reason why I generally don't work with anybody anymore. No organization, no nothing. Simply, it's just too much of a headache for me to work with people and their conditions and their, changing their mind. One day they agree, one day they disagree. We don't want to work with anybody. We want to do our thing. We want everybody else, chazakim u'buchim, do your thing. I applaud you. If you're doing the right thing, if you're telling people the truth, chazak u'baruch, and kol tuv. But as far as working with people and so on, simply not interested in it. It's just too much of a headache. And that's the reason why, for all of those people that are asking, why are you not doing this and why are you not doing that? That's the general answer. For more specifics, you need to enter my mind. Anyway, with that being said, I want to cover a little bit of halachot today, and then we'll go into your questions, because I don't know what the schedule is going to be, especially as things are getting really, really busy right now. The days are getting longer, and the burden is getting bigger. and I don't know what the schedule is going to be before Pesach and so on. So because this year's Pesach is different than it typically is, if a person does not learn the halachot of Pesach, for sure they are almost guaranteed that they're going to be eating chametz on this Pesach coming up. And the reason why is because unlike other years where Pesach, Passover, is usually during a weekday, this year Pesach is on Motzei Shabbat, which creates a lot of confusion for people as far as burning the chametz, but at the same time eating chametz, and so on and so forth. So we'll go briefly into a few things. I'll try to be as quick as possible, but again, I highly recommend you take notes, and if you're not able to catch up, then just simply watch this again tomorrow and take down the notes. Because again, it's a person that eats chametz, a Jew that eats chametz on Pesach, it's din karet. Okay, it's the worst thing in the world. So you have to be careful of what you do. It's not Pesach is not a suggestion. It's not a custom. It's an obligation from the Torah for Am Yisrael to preserve it. And there's a few major mitzvot. So first and foremost, a lot of the things that I'm going to say I learned with my Rav. A lot of it is based on the psak from Rav Ovadia, from Sefer the Chazon Ovadia. But of course, if you are have a different poskim, if you're ashkenazi or Hasidish and so on, then you have to check with your own poskim on some slight changes that may be from time to time, but generally speaking, most of what I'm talking to you is almost certainly for Klal Yisrael. Okay, but for sure for all Sephardic Jews. Okay, so typically there is Ta'anit Bechorot before Pesach, which is the fast of the firstborn. But because, which is the something that's we do every year. And but this year, because Pesach is on Motzei Shabbat, on Saturday night, we cannot fast on Shabbat. We cannot fast on Friday. So some say that you fast on Thursday night, even though the actual the holiday this year starts on Saturday. They say you fast on Thursday, but the Rabbi Yosef Karo in the Shulchan Aruch says that since the fast was moved, it's not typically this way, then technically you don't even need to fast. But Rav Ovadia writes that you, if you don't want to fast, then simply go listen to someone complete a Masechet in the Gemara, and like most people do every year, and that will not only be a mitzvah that you're a part of, but also absolve you from the poskim that rule that you should fast, even though it was moved. So the point being is, so that would be on Thursday. Okay, so you can hear a siyum masechet and be absolved from it. But again, for anyone that is sick, for anyone that's pregnant or just gave birth or anything like that, you don't need to fast at all. Next thing is in regards to the checking of the chametz. Checking of the chametz is typically done on the 14th of Nisan, but this year it will be done on the 13th, which is the Thursday. Thursday night is when there will be the checking for the chametz, which means that the fast is actually done this year before the checking of the chametz. So it's not, that's the opposite. So this year the checking, the bdikat chametz, is done on Thursday night, where you put, the custom is to put one of your family members to put 10 pieces that are smaller than kezait, small pieces of chametz in different parts of the house, and then you go look for it with a candle, or if it's dangerous, then you could do it with a flashlight even, and some say it's very good to use also a feather to look at different creases and look for the chametz. Some chachamim from a few hundred years ago, it's actually frowned upon, this custom of hiding chametz in case a person doesn't find it, but nonetheless, the person that hides it should, if you have a big house, you should write it on a piece of paper where you hid every single one in case the family members that are looking for the chametz cannot find it. But the bdikat chametz is part of the mitzvot of Pesach. You have to make a specific blessing on the bdikat chametz. You will find that in the PESACH Motzei, which is a specific prayer book for the time of Pesach. So there's a special prayer that you do. Now, since the actual holiday itself doesn't begin until Saturday, what happens there? That's really where the confusion is, because even though you're looking for chametz, you're still technically allowed to eat chametz throughout all of Thursday night, all of Friday, and until Pesach officially begins somewhere around 10 to 11 o'clock a.m. on Saturday afternoon. So the reality is that you're looking for chametz, but you're still going to have some chametz left. So what do you do with this chametz? This chametz that you're going to be using to eat Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday morning, you put it in one part of your house, whether it's going to be a certain section of your kitchen or wherever you want to put it, but it should be all of it in one place. The rest of the house should be clean already for Pesach, ready for Pesach, but just the utensils, pots and pans, and food that's still chametz that you're going to be using for those next day and a half should be in one section in the house. Now, until again Saturday, which again over here, for example, the last time to eat chametz is going to be the morning meal of Shabbat, which has to end here in Florida and Cooper City, has to end at 11:20 a.m. Okay, in Israel, on the other hand, where Rabbi Ephraim is, it's around 10 a.m., 10:15, something like that. So you have to check with the apps that you have, or websites, based on your zip code, when is the last time to eat chametz on Saturday. For all of us, it's Saturday, but just different times depending on where you are in the world. So which means that, again, you're checking for chametz. That's not the one that you're going to be eating during the next day and a half or so. Okay? After that, you have to, on Friday, you have to burn the chametz. Burn the chametz that you're not going to be eating. Burn the chametz, and this is going to be on Friday morning. And even though you're still allowed, again, you're allowed to eat chametz for Friday night, and actually need to eat chametz technically for Shabbat and for Saturday morning, you still have chametz that you're not going to eat. Now, if it is closed packaging of things, you want to keep them, then you can sell that chametz. It's completely closed, untouched, and so on. You can sell that chametz. There are different websites, or your local rabbi in the community, I'm sure, have some type of an arrangement with a non-Jew that would buy the chametz for the duration of the holiday. So you could sell the chametz that's only closed. But if you have chametz that's opened, unless it's expensive liquor, you have to throw it out. Don't play games with this. And also, if it's things that are not gonna keep, because they're gonna expire and things like that. Again, this is part of the stuff that you burn as part of the burning of the chametz. Some communities, most communities, Jewish communities, have a fire, and usually in some type of a barrel, that everybody throws their chametz in there on Friday morning, and the time to do it is like it would be done in a typical year, morning time, somewhere around a little bit before noon. Selling the chametz that you want to keep to use it after Pesach is to be done ideally on Thursday. But it's okay to even sell the chametz this year on Friday, because again, you're technically allowed to eat it until Saturday morning, until Shabbat morning. but ideally to sell it on Thursday. But you can sell it even on Friday. I wouldn't recommend waiting for the last minute. When you're burning the chametz, remember to do the blessing. But when you're selling the chametz, that you do without bitul blessing. There's no the blessing that you're doing as far as the bitul, the cancellation of the chametz that's left. You do on Shabbat afternoon. Shabbat afternoon is when you do that particular blessing. So now, on Friday, you're allowed to do melachot because it's not Yom Tov. So you're allowed to do melachot, with cook, clean, whatever it is that you need to do. But again, remember, it's you're preparing for the a long holiday, and it's an important holiday. This is one of the foundations of Judaism. It's not one of those holidays where it's like a custom. You have to be prepared for this. Now, as far as a little bit of a reminder for Alachot Shabbat, that when you are, let's say eating on Friday night, and after you finish eating, if you want to wash the dishes with a something that's not a sponge, you're not allowed to wash with a sponge. But if you have something that has holes in it, like a net, and you want to put soap on it, you're allowed. But that's only if you're going to use these utensils and different plates and so on Shabbat. But if you're not going to use them on Shabbat, you're not allowed to wash them on Shabbat. So for example, if you want to wash things on Friday night, no problem. But after Seudah Shlishit, on a typical Shabbat, you're not allowed to wash the dishes because Shabbat's over. So you're not going to be able to, an hour later or 2 hours later. So you're not going to be able to use those pots and pans and different things later on. So if you're washing dishes, even if it's in a kosher way, on Shabbat, it's after Seudah Shlishit, you're violating Shabbat. But here, you have to remember that the dishes that you're using on Friday night, unless they are dishes that are you throw out in the garbage, the plastic dishes and things like that you throw out. These dishes you could only wash on Friday, to use them on Saturday morning. But after the Saturday morning meal, you're not allowed to wash those dishes or the pots and pans that you had the food in, because you're no longer going to be able to use them after that morning meal because they're all full of chametz. Okay, so that's why it is highly recommended not to make dishes like chulent and other types of dishes that stick to the pots and pans, because you're not going to be able to wash them, for the duration of the holiday, because they're chametz. You have to, after the meal on Saturday morning, you have to put away all of the chametz, whatever bread you still have left. You have to crumble it into little tiny crumbs that are all little tiny crumbs, and then throw it out. Whatever food you have that's chametz, you throw everything out. The pots and pans, forks, knives that's not plastic, you're not throwing that out. All that stuff, you have to put it away in a section of your house that you're not going to enter and not going to use for the whole duration of the holiday. So again, you cannot wash your chametz on Saturday, on Shabbat, because again, you're not allowed to have it after that morning meal. And you have to make sure that you remember that you need to find out the exact time that you're no longer allowed to eat chametz and have chametz, because you have to not only finish the meal, but you have to put all this stuff away before that time. So if you're like, for example, in Israel, 10 o'clock in the morning, then that means that you have to pray morning nets, 6 o'clock in the morning prayer, get home. Usually there's no kiddush whatsoever in the synagogues this year on Pesach, because everybody has to hurry home and have the meal before the time's up, and then clean up everything. Any chametz that's left, throw out in the garbage. Any pots, pans, whatever, put them away. If you disregarded my advice and you made yourself chulent or one of these dishes that the food sticks to the pots and pans, whatever you're not able to throw out, because it's stuck to the pan, you have to leave it as is and put it in something, a garbage bag or so on, so there's no bugs in your house. But the reality is, it was a lot of people, what they do in this type of time is usually they make either dishes that are not sticky, easily washable, and easily you can empty it out and it's not going to stick to anything, or they make mezonot, like pizza and other types of mezonot for that Saturday morning meal. Now, as far as the rest is to make sure that you know that all the melachot are allowed on Friday, but not on Saturday because it's still Shabbat. So the preparation for the seder, as far as the washing of the maror, you can't do it on Saturday. Okay, you have to clean the maror and the leaves and so on from bugs and so on. You have to do that on Friday. You can't do it on Shabbat because then it would be a melacha of Shabbat called borer. So you can't clean the chasa on Shabbat. You have to do it on Friday. Also recommended for you to weigh the matzot because the matzah, it's not just eating matzah and however you feel like and whenever. There's an obligation to eat matzah on the seder for people that live in Israel only on the first night. For people that live in the exile like us, it's 2 nights, and you have to eat kezait, a kezait amount 4 times, which is what we go by is 30 grams. Okay, so you have to, you're not going to know how much 30 grams is because people think, 30 grams is a small little piece. No, it depends what kind of matzah you have. If you have one of these machine matzahs that are square, it's almost 3/4 of the matzah. You're going to have to eat that 4 times. Okay? If you have, let's say, one of these matzot shmurot, the round matzahs, then it depends how thick that matzah is, and you have to break off a piece and weigh it. Get a scale and weigh it, but you have to do that on Friday. On Friday. You can't do it on Shabbat. It'll be Chilul Shabbat. You have to do it on Friday. If you have something called ftera, which is the matzah that's similar to pita, but it's kosher for Pesach, that's made, then usually it's a little less than 1/4 of the pita because it's a very heavy in weight. So point is, you have to do this stuff, before Pesach, and you have however many members of your family and people that are attending your seder. Really, what it should be is each person should have his chasa, his maror, and his matzah, all in different in bags, like these Ziploc bags, where they know, okay, this is my 4 servings of the matzah to fulfill the obligation of eating matzah on the seder. This is the maror that I'm going to eat for the seder, and each person should have his own little thing. Where, of course, usually the mom is the one that does the job, or the father, if the father's doing it. But the point being is, don't leave it up to, we'll just figure it out as we go. Because what ends up happening is people sit in a seder, they eat like horses, but they end up not fulfilling the mitzvah because they don't know how much to eat. Also, you have to know that to eat the matzah, you have to eat it within 4 minutes. Unless it's a child that's before bar mitzvah age, or it's someone sick, then you have up to 9 minutes. These halachot seem difficult at first. It seems burdensome. It seems ridiculous. Why do they care? How this, how that? But that's the reality, Rabotai. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. And anyone that's a chacham lev, that has a wise heart, will simply just take notes, follow what it says, and move on with it, and just do what Hashem says, and that's it. And not just make all types of excuses of why he doesn't, or he doesn't want, and all that types of stuff. Just simply do it. It's not that difficult, especially when you want to do it. So preparation as far as the maror, as far as the matzah, on Friday, not on Shabbat. Okay? On Saturday morning, the prayer at the synagogue, or if you're praying by yourself at home, because your synagogue in your community is closed, or for whatever other reason, you have to pray early netz minyan, early morning, because you need to make sure to make the time to have the seudah for Shabbat before that midday, which again, midday right now in Florida is somewhere around 11:20. In Israel, it's somewhere around 10:20. Again, you have to check with your own community where it starts. you end eating chametz on, again, at that time. At that time, it's not just end eating it, but also have to move everything already before that time. Put it in a specific section in your house that you're not going to use, or in the garbage. That's why a lot of people, usually for this type of Shabbat, for this that comes before Pesach, many people use everything as a disposable. Disposable spoons and knives, disposable plates, and in certain places that have it available to them, disposable pots and pans. So I mean, there's disposable everything these days. So it's best to have one of these disposable pots and pans and so on that you're making food in, because that way you don't have to worry about cleaning anything or bugs. Everything goes in the garbage. That's it, finished. That's the ideal situation if you have it available to you. Now the Seudah on Friday night, you have to have motzi. You have to have something that will do motzi for Birkat HaMazon. Now, you're allowed to eat matzah on Friday, but you're not allowed to eat matzah on Saturday, because you're not allowed to eat. We'll go into that in a moment. But on Saturday, you can eat matzah if you want, but you still have to do motzi. And a lot of poskim say that you're not allowed to do motzi on matzah during the year. It's a machloket, and therefore you have to eat bread. You have to eat bread to do the motzi on the bread. And your meal is chametz, but point is, it's either way, you have to have the motzi on Friday night. Now, on the after the meal of Saturday morning, you do the mitzvah of bitul chametz, which is cancellation of the chametz, the one that you know of, that's you go throwing in the garbage, the one that you don't know of, that you haven't found perhaps, or you didn't realize you had. There's a certain blessing that you say, that's bitul chametz. Okay? Now, you're not allowed to eat matzah on the day of Pesach. The Gemara in Yerushalmi, Masechet Pesachim, section 10, halacha number 1, says anyone that eats matzah on the day of Pesach Eve is like a person who was intimate with his fiancé inside his father-in-law's or future father-in-law's house. Okay, it's to that extent. It's frowned upon and forbidden to that extent. Reuven, again, Gemara says anyone that eats matzah on the day of Pesach, meaning before the Seder, is like someone that was intimate with his future wife, not his current wife, in his father-in-law's house. That's how much disrespectful it is. Why? You went too early. You went too early. You're not supposed to eat matzah before the Seder. Now, some don't eat matzah the whole month. The whole month to make sure that they, are going to really celebrate eating the matzah when the time comes, and it's really special. Some don't eat it the whole week before Pesach. Our minhag and the general custom among most people is simply not to eat matzah just that day. But for sure not to eat matzah that day. You're allowed to eat matzah on Friday, okay, but Saturday, no matzah. Until the Seder itself. Now, Now, this creates a issue. The fact that we're not allowed to eat matzah creates an issue. What's the issue? What do you do for Seudah Shlishit, the third meal of Shabbat? You have the first meal of Shabbat on Friday night. The second meal of Shabbat is on Saturday morning. And the third meal of Shabbat is usually about an hour and a half, 2 hours before the end of Shabbat, Seudah Shlishit. Now, since this year, Pesach already starts at around 10 to 11 o'clock in the morning, and you're no longer allowed to eat chametz, okay? That means you can't have challah for Seudah Shlishit. At the same token, you're also not allowed to eat matzah. You're not allowed to eat matzah on Seudah Shlishit either. So, what do? So, some people will eat what's called a rich matzah, which is a matzah that's made with wine, flour, and sugar. So it lost, in essence, its matzah taste. Or they eat fried matzah or cooked matzah, This obviously always cooked or fried before Shabbat. And they're allowed to eat that because these types of matzahs have lost their real matzah taste. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, alav shalom, would not eat at all Sudah Shlishit. Would not eat Sudah Shlishit at all. And instead would share secrets of the Torah during that time, because he said that you cannot eat challah because it's chametz, and you cannot eat matzah because, as we just said, it's forbidden. So he says, what do? Let's just eat more Torah and prepare ourselves for the seder that's coming up in several hours, and make sure to arrive at that seder very hungry. Now that's also another thing, that even if you eat other things, you want to eat fruits, you want to eat vegetables, you want to eat other stuff, that's fine. But make sure that, or if let's say you're eating the rich matzah or the fried matzah, all these other things that are allowed to eat, it's fine, but make sure you don't stuff your face to the point where, a few hours later when you have to do the seder, you're still full, and you don't, because you have to arrive at the seder hungry because you have that's the way you're supposed to eat matzah. Okay, so it's important for a person to know. Now, if somebody is going to eat fried matzah or cooked matzah or rich matzah, then if they eat just a small piece, then they do a ala mechia ending blessing on it. But if they eat 216 grams, which is pretty decent, it's a lot, but nonetheless, if they eat 216 grams of the of this matzah, then they have to do actual birkat hamazon. But again, don't eat too much, so you still stay hungry for the seder. Now, when it comes to matzah shmura, these are the round matzahs that are typically used for the seder. It's not recommended to use those machine matzahs for the seder, because there's a whole machloket of even if it's considered matzah or not. Point being is, you're going to have to cough up some money on buying the round matzahs if you want to celebrate the holiday in a better way. It's if anyone that wants to get it and doesn't have it available locally to them, or they want something that's extra special, can contact me and I'll connect you with one of my dear friends that is selling that matzah. It's not cheap. Don't ask for discounts. This is not the time to save money. Pesach is expensive, but nonetheless, it's one of the biggest expenses is matzah. So you can get these matzah shmura from anywhere from $30 to a box of 1 pound to 70, 100. There's even some as much as $500. I think it's a little crazy, but nonetheless, they exist. They exist in the world. Everyone has their own idurim and so on and so forth. The point being is, it's you have to make sure that you have solid, good matzah. If you don't know, all these stores sell different matzahs. I wouldn't necessarily say always buy the most expensive, because the most expensive doesn't necessarily mean it's the best. I wouldn't necessarily buy the cheapest just because, sometimes things are cheap for a reason. But try to look at who's the ashkacha, who actually did the ashkacha on this, and it's more well known and accepted among Klal Yisrael, the better it is. Like if it's, let's say, for example, a specific type of ashkacha that's only accepted among, let's say, their own Hasidut, but let's say the Ashkenazim and the Sephardim don't accept it, while you have another choice of matzah where everybody accepts their ashkacha, the Hasidim, the Ashkenazim, and the Sephardim, which is almost, unrealistic, but nonetheless, if there's one that has ashkacha that everybody accepts, get that one versus the one that's only accepted among others. This is sometimes common among, for example, meat. There are many people that do not eat meat from, let's say, the ashkacha of certain people or certain organizations for all their own reasons. So, Sfaradim have to have a Bet Yosef, but at the same token, if some Bet Yosef is not available, some will go to other ashkachot, but they won't eat Chabad. They won't eat Chabad's ashkacha. Why? They have their own reasons. But in other places, some people, no, they won't eat this one, but they'll eat another one. It's not racism or prejudice. Everybody has their own reasons for doing it. And I know that's one of the things that's making this distribution, this Kimcha de Pischa that we're doing, distributing food to poor tzadikim in Eretz Yisrael, that's actually one of the dilemmas that we're dealing with, because we, Baruch Hashem, because we've distributed so much food and money in Eretz Yisrael over the last few years, we've now made contact for the first time ever with the actual distributor itself, meaning the company that supplies the supermarket. Rather than buying everything from supermarkets, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're trying to actually buy everything from the actual wholesaler. So that way each family will get practically double the food that we would typically get them, because we buy them from supermarkets. So let's say 1,000 that's gonna shekels, that's let's say gonna get I don't know, let's say 10 chickens, and this piece of meat and that piece of this, all this doing. Now that's when you buy it from a supermarket. But when you buy it from the wholesaler, it's now 20 chickens. And so it's that, because obviously everybody has a markup. So we prefer to obviously give the families much more food. We're not looking to save money. We're still going to give the same amount of money. It's just that we're going to have the ability to give more food to these families, which will last them the whole holiday, not just the Seder. So that's one of the things that we're having a tough time with, is when it comes to meat. Okay? Because when it comes to chicken, there is a kashrut of chicken that most people accept in Eretz Yisrael. But when it comes to meat, it's virtually impossible to find two communities that eat the same type of ashgacha, kashrut of meat. He wants Rav Mahmoud, he wants Badatz, he wants... Everybody has their own thing. So it's impossible to supply this to so many hundreds of families and cater it to each and every single person and so on. So most likely we're not going to do meat at all. We're just going to do a lot of chicken and obviously other fish, salmon. Each one is going to get a salmon that is a little bit bigger than a baby. So B'ezrat Hashem, we're working on it. The point I'm trying to make is that when it comes to ashgacha is very important. You can't just eat anything that has a K on it. You have to look at things. And sometimes it's less important, sometimes it's more important. So for example, when it comes to meat, the most important part of the meat is who actually supervised this kashrut. That's the most important part of any meat. It's not if this is a this or that. It's who supervised it. Why? Because if the supervisor is one of these reform mentality supervisors, it might not even be kosher. And on the other hand, when it comes to things that are parv, then there's less of an issue, because again, it's less things can go wrong. But when it comes to matzot, most people are not going to know all of the ashkachot, because there's a lot of seasonal operations of different rabbis and talmidei chachamim that only function once a year to make the matzot. So you're not going to see their stamp on other food throughout the rest of the year. But if it is possible for you to get some type of word of mouth or some type of recommendation of one over another, not just because of price, it is recommended to get those. Again, like I said, I have a friend that deals with it. Anyone that wants to deal with it, we could help. But again, don't break my head and give me work to do. That's also, as a side note, there's a few of you that God bless you. I try to do everything, but you guys are sending me homework. Like, hey, Rabbi, once you read this article, let me know what you think. They send me like a 5-page article. They want me to read it. Go read it yourself. Don't give me homework. It's a lot of people are sending me this missions. Oh, Rabbi, can you look into this Bet Din and tell me what you think of them? You know how long that stuff takes. You can't give people. You have to ask specific questions. So again, I appreciate that everybody cares about my opinion so much and what I think of certain things, but you have to realize that I have literally tens of thousands of people that I deal with regularly, hundreds of emails and messages every single day. It's simply not possible for me to address some of these projects that people send me on. And the same thing goes with these matzahs. You want me to help you? I'll give you the contact information. You do everything from that point. We could help you by simply making the transaction for you. You send the money, we'll send them the address, and they'll ship you the matzahs, and that's it. Don't ask, oh yeah, I don't like it, return policies, no returns. It's just simply doing a service. You want it, get it. You don't want it, b'chavod, go buy it from your local store, and Bezat Hashem ta'asu v'tatzlichu. But this is, again, only if you are domestic in the United States. Don't ask me for any shipments into different countries. It's not the time. Anyway, back to the halachot. Matzah shmura, again, this is the matzah you're going to be using. This is the matzah that you're going to be using for the seder and for the Pesach. Now, you can eat those square matzot if you want during the holiday, but for the seder, it should be a matzah shmura, or if you have ftera, if you like the ftera, which is the soft matzahs. But again, those you have to be very, very careful with the kashrut. I know that Rav Gidon ben Moshe, the Sheikhye, is the head of the Jerusalem Bet Din. He has a recipe from hundreds and hundreds of years that he makes those every year. Sometimes we get them. That's actually going to be part of the things we give out to the families in Eretz Yisrael that are needy. But even those, again, not everybody wants them. Why? I'm only going to get those fterot from a rabbi that I know. So if they don't know Rabbi Gidon, which is unusual, but nonetheless, some people won't know him, they won't accept it. So you have to be careful with kashrut. People care about kashrut even more so in Israel than they do here in America. But the point being is that matzah that you're going to eat, the matzah shmura, you're not allowed to carry it on Shabbat. What? Why? It's considered muktzeh. Why? Because you're not allowed to eat it. And therefore, you're not allowed to touch it. So don't set up anything during the day of Shabbat. Don't set up anything during the day of Shabbat. In fact, in regards to setting up for the Leila Seder, you're not allowed to do that on Shabbat because you're not allowed to prepare for Motzei Shabbat on Shabbat, and you're not allowed to prepare for a holiday on Shabbat. You're only allowed to do things on Shabbat that are relevant to Shabbat. So when can you prepare for the Seder, especially if you're expecting a lot of guests? The earliest time that you're allowed to start setting up the table for Leil Seder, the earliest time halachically, is 13 and a half minutes after sunset. If you start setting up the table for the Seder, start setting up everything for the Seder, before that, you start doing it in the afternoon, you start doing it even 15 minutes before sunset, you are a mechalel Shabbat. You're violating Shabbat. Okay? Not allowed to do it. You have to take this, this is like mamash. People could literally lose their olam haba for a stupid minute because they have anxiety problems. So you have to know, 13 and a half minutes before sunset is the earliest. Personally, I recommend you wait a little bit, start doing everything already after. But again, if you want to do it 13, at that time, that's perfectly fine. Some women have a lot of guests and a lot of anxiety to go with it. They want to get every minute that they can. That's no problem. But again, don't do it too early, because if you do it too early, it's a very, very serious problem. During the prayer, before the actual tefillah itself, instead of atachon antanu, which usually you do in Mariv on Motzei Shabbat, you actually add a prayer called Vetodienu. Vetodienu is what you're adding to the prayer at that point. It's similar to atachon antanu, but it's not the same. This you'll see also in your machzorim. Now, when it comes to Avdallah is on Motzei Shabbat. Avdallah is part of the Seder. It's not separate like it is every single week. It's actually part of the Seder. Okay? Part of the Agadah, part of everything. Starting from the beginning. You're going from Avdallah into the Seder. It's not like two separate things. Okay? So you have to do Avdallah this year is only with wine and the fire, no besamim. No besamim, because the besamim is usually to make the neshama feel better because the extra neshama left. But since we're going from Kodesh to Kodesh, from holiness of Shabbat to the holiness of Yom Tov, of Pesach, the neshama yetera, the extra neshama, stays, doesn't leave. Okay, so there's no besamim needed. So you do it on wine. you say the prayer is, instead of Amavdil ben Kodesh lechol, from holiness to the mundane, we say Amavdil ben Kodesh lekodesh. Okay, so you have to pay attention to that. That is, again, usually in the beginning of your Agadah. We, Bezat Hashem, will be coming out as an organization again this year with an Agadah in Hebrew. Hebrew only, with new Chidushim by Rav Ephraim. We're going to be printing 1,000 copies in Eretz Yisrael. Hard copy. It's going to be beautiful, beautiful Agadah. I just got the messages today with the stuff. We'll have a online digital version available, but I personally myself like hard copy. So if you have a hard copy available to you, then you should definitely get that. But if you have a you don't have it, then obviously you could download it from our website, the Agadah. You'll have. We have a English version from last year, but that hasn't been updated, and also there's a few errors that need to be fixed, which I don't think we'll have the time to do before Pesach. It's not like the worst mistakes in the world or anything, but it's just a few errors. If you compare the Hebrew to the English, there's a few minor errors. I personally would recommend somebody getting it from a store. If you need the English version, getting something from a store to buy something. Personally, I like the Katz. Katz's Agadah has beautiful drawings. The kids love it, and drawings are not just beautiful drawings, but the actual drawings that are based on the Midrash. So each drawing has significance to it. Point being is, this is what I would recommend. But of course, there are countless Agadot. If you have one or you want to buy one, there's plenty of them available on different websites, on ArtScroll, on Feldheim, on Sefarim Center, on Muznaim, and countless other Judaica stores and so on. Get yourself an Agadah, but make sure you get it for your custom. Don't buy a ashkenazi Agadah if you're Sephardic. Don't buy a Sephardic Agadah if you're Ashkenazi, unless you know it's a specific difference. Like, for example, the Katz Agadah is actually Ashkenazi. I'm Sephardi, but I know the difference between the two, and I know where to make the certain changes. I like it for my kids. I like it for my kids because it's the most visually appealing Agadah that I've seen. So I give it to them, and they're babies. 4 years old, 6 years old. It's little kids, so it's not. They don't necessarily need to know every single word. So whenever I need to make a change, I make a change. But someone that's getting it for themselves, if you're reading it for everybody and you're Sfaradi, either know the difference and ahead of time and know where to make the changes, which the biggest difference usually is in the Birkat HaMazon and the Hallel. But there are some other minor differences between Sfaradi and Ashkenazi. But if you don't know the differences, then get your traditions, your customs Agadah. It is what it is. As far as the Havdalah, again, like I said, it's part of the Seder. On the you do Gefen, then you do the Kiddush, then you do the fire. Okay, which that will elaborate and finish at that point, which is again the fire, which is the Havdalah fire. When you say Kodesh leKodesh. Now, the fire is a problem. Why is the fire a problem? Because you can't light a new fire at this moment because it's Chag. Even though you just finished Shabbat, it's Moshe Shabbat, but it's Yom Tov, so you can't light a new fire. Okay, you can't light a new fire. So what you have to do is have a long-lasting candle, at least 48 hours, lit before Shabbat. Before Shabbat, I personally recommend lighting 2, just in case one goes out. A 48-hour, 72-hour candle that you can light before Shabbat, because if you want to cook on the Yom Tov, which is one major difference that you're allowed to do on Yom Tov versus Shabbat, you're allowed to cook, but you're only allowed to cook with fire to fire, meaning it has to be a existing fire lighting the new fire versus a new fire creating. So you have to have an existing fire, so you have to have a candle already lit from before Shabbat. Okay, so you have a 48-hour candle or a 72-hour candle, that you're using, but that candle, you can't use it for Havdalah. You can't use that for Havdalah. Why? Because the candle over those 25 hours that Shabbat exists, that candle goes down. Okay? And as soon as that candle goes down, now it starts to be covered by the glass or whatever is covering the candle itself. Okay? And now, according to the Shulchan Aruch, you can no longer use that candle for Havdalah, because even though it's fire, the fire that you're seeing against your fingernails when you're doing the Havdalah is not the actual fire itself, but a reflection of the fire, and it's not permissible for Havdalah. This also actually is a chidush for many of us, simply because you have a big candle that's beautiful and everything, but that candle, after a while, after a few times you've used it for Havdalah, starts sinking in, and if you didn't realize what the halacha is, you're still using that candle. But the Shulchan Aruch says that you have to have a raised fire. You have to have a fire that's high. That's why a lot of people use that candle that's very long, because the wicks are at the top of it. So it doesn't matter how much of it you've used, the fire is always on top. Okay? So what you want to do is that you don't want to have a really long candle for this specific Havdalah, because what are you going to do with it after? You can't turn it off. So what some people do is they either take that long candle and just cut a small piece of it and connect it to a holder where even after you light it, it burns off eventually, and it's like a small candle, but it's still at the top. Or you use like one of those like Shabbat candles that eventually burn off. You don't want this whole candle, long candle, burning for so long. It can become a little dangerous, because again, it's not like the ones that are in a glass. Point being is that it has to be fire to fire, so use the existing fire that you lit already on Friday to light the Havdalah candle, and make sure that the Havdalah candle is short, but yet the fire is at the top of it, not sinking in, is short, so the fire eventually goes out that night, and not something that lasts, multiple days. Okay, so don't light like another 72-hour candle with that, for Havdalah. That's about sums it up, Rabotai, for the halachot of Pesach, the Seder section. Last thing I would say is in regards to the rest of the holiday. Obviously, for the exile, we have 2 seders. Every Jew that lives in the exile has to do 2 seders. You cannot just do 1. You have to do 2, and they're exactly the same. There's no difference. 2 afikuman. You have to drink 4 glasses of wine or grape juice. You have to eat the matzah, 4 servings, the maror, read the entire Agadah, enjoy, make sure not to fight, have a good time. The main part of the Seder is to teach the children of the house about Yetziat Mitzrayim. That's the main part. So even if you have the most important rabbi in the world, most important person in the world, as a guest in your house, you have to make them secondary to your children. Why? The main thing is to tell your children about Yetziat Mitzrayim. Until everybody's tired and they go to sleep. But that's the main thing. The main thing of Pesach is not to host guests. The main thing of Pesach is to actually teach your children about the Exodus. And that's the most important part. And if you don't have kids, then tell the story to your wife. And if you don't have a wife, then tell the story to yourself. Point is, you have to do as much as possible on the Seder, on both nights. The more you say, the more praiseworthy you are. Then after the second night, you have Chol HaMoed. A lot of people think that Chol HaMoed is just a day off, you go back to work. Wrong. People that desecrate Chol HaMoed and treat it like a regular day, and they just go back to work unnecessarily, can lose their Olam Haba. Okay, you're only allowed to work on Chol HaMoed if not working will create a loss. Meaning, if let's say you go to work, you make money, and you don't go to work, you don't make money, that's not considered a loss. That's just considered, you're not making a profit. But if your boss tells you, if you don't work on Chol HaMoed, you're going to get fired, then you're allowed to work on Chol HaMoed. That's only on Chol HaMoed, not on Yom Tov. On Yom Tov, there's no working. On Shabbat, there's no working. Doesn't matter what your boss says. But on Chol HaMoed, there's only permission to work, and if it's going to, if not working would create a loss. If not working, create a loss. Same thing with investments. You're only allowed to deal with the investments if the not doing something would create a loss. Like you can't buy anything new, but you can sell, you can exit positions, or you can close out positions. Unless, again, what you're buying is a hedge. Point being is, you have to know that Chol HaMoed is still a holiday. It's still a holiday. It's not a time to just go back as if there's no holiday. You have to make sure that you honor the holiday. So with that being said, Rabotai, that's in essence sums it up of this year's Pesach. If you have any other questions, you could ask them privately if I need to look up stuff or anything that I didn't cover. But that's in essence pretty much it. With that being said, you can now start asking questions, and Be'ezrat Hashem, we will provide the answers. Hashem gives us Be'ezrat Hashem. Second, I'm gonna have a drink. I already did the blessing before, so I need to drink something. Okay, first question, Ethan says, when a Jew lives in an area where there are shuls near him, yet those shuls have terrible ashkafa, or leading the congregation in a bad way, is a Jew allowed to be part of their minyan, or is it better to pray at home? Okay, so now there's ashkafa and there's alacha. Okay, if this shul is violating alacha, meaning they are, let's say for example, there are 10 people in the shul, but some of them don't keep Shabbat. So in essence, they don't have a kosher minyan, and yet they still take out the Sefer Torah and read from the Torah and say Kaddish. That's a congregation that does not keep halacha. A congregation like that, you're not allowed to be part of. Not allowed to be part of. But if it's a congregation that has a weak ashkafa, meaning, the rabbi is weak, he doesn't really say real musar, he doesn't say real things, but he doesn't violate halacha. He makes sure that he has at least 10 Shomrei Shabbat Jews, at the minimum, if he's going to take out the Sefer Torah, if he's going to be Kaddish, and so on. But the ashkafa, the ideology is weak. As long as there is at least 10 kosher Jews in there, you're allowed to pray and leave. Don't be part of the shurim there or anything else. You go, you pray, you leave. That's in essence what you do. But if they violate halacha, then you cannot even be there to pray or nothing, because there's nothing for you to do there. You pray at home in that situation, and that's it. Next question. Charlie, where is the mountain and great city of Esav? It's Edom. Edom is somewhere in the Middle East, but I don't have the exact coordinates or anything like that. Yaakov, what is the danger of fish and meat? Well, the Chachamim say that this is not only a physical danger, create all types of problems for people's digestive situation and things like that, but there's also a spiritual danger of eating it together. So therefore, you have to eat them separately. If you're going to eat fish, you eat the fish, you wash your mouth, and then you could eat meat, no problem. Or vice versa, you eat the meat, you wash your mouth, and then you could eat the fish, no problem. That's what the Chachamim said. A person that's wise will simply listen to the Chachamim and not play games. As far as next question, Dana is asking, I appreciate it if you could add me to your Mishibarach list, Reisel Bat Noma. Kadosh Baruch Hu yivarech otach bekol mikol kol, chaim arukim shlemim meleim Torah, mitzvot, v'gmilut chasadim. Anyone that wants to be part of the Refuah Shlema list, if it's a one-time thing, you could go to the website, the Be'ezrat Hashem website, and you could add yourself or somebody else. By buying on the store, there's $180 or something like that for sponsorship for someone to get a refuah shlema. If you want to do ilui nishmat, there's something next to it. I think it's like $500. If you want to sponsor an entire shiur and have the merits for that, there is several different options for sponsoring the shiur. If you don't have any money, you just simply don't have any money, then we'll still do it for free. But if you do have money and you don't donate, then it's not very nice. But point being is, anyone that has the ability to donate should donate for doing it. But even if you don't have the money, we would still do it, especially if it's a situation of refuah shlema. Let's see. Next. Sorry. Michael, when a person converts in an Orthodox conversion, are all their sins forgiven, or are there certain sins that are not forgiven? Fantastic. So the Gemara and also the Rambam, right? Paskins at Lalacha, someone that's a mitgayer, someone that converts, is a tinok shenolad dami, is exactly like a newborn baby. That's the halacha. That's the halacha. So someone that converts is a brand new baby. What does it mean, brand new baby? He's 30, 40, 50 years old. She's 30, 40, 50 years old, 20 years old. What do you mean brand new baby? Meaning they receive a brand new neshama the moment they dip in that mikveh. They receive that neshama. Some of them actually have a physical feeling on the spot where something has changed. Sometimes I've seen people have that feeling sometime later, a few hours later, a few days later even, but nonetheless, there is a new neshama going into that person, which is completely unrelated to the existing neshama, meaning this neshama is brand new, it's clean, doesn't have any sins, any of the stuff that you have. So the sins that a person made before conversion are not his sins, but the Chachamim say, if it is sins that affect other people, he should still fix them. Meaning, if, let's say, for example, someone stole money, he stole $5,000 from somebody, and that person knows, you borrowed money from me and you didn't give it back, that's in essence stealing, you $5,000 you owe me. Now technically, once he becomes a Jew, he doesn't have to owe, it's not the same person. But he should give that money back that he stole. Why? Because you don't want that person saying, "Oh, look at these Jews, they're all thieves," right? Because he's not going to blame you anymore. He's going to blame the Jewish people now. So it could be a chilul Hashem. So even though technically not obligated to return it, should return it because it could create desecration of Hashem. But for all intents and purposes, the sins of the past are wiped out. People still need to make sure that they do as much as possible to still have remorse of any mistakes that they made, if they worshipped an idol, if they did things that are forbidden, if they intentionally delayed their conversion. They have to obviously still have remorse for it and not act as if the world owes them something. But nonetheless, when a person converts, Rabotai, they're a brand new baby, they are sinless, and it's highly, highly recommended to ask them for a blessing as soon as they convert. I do it all the time, where anytime we bring somebody to the Beit Din, right after you finish, they want me to bless them. I tell them only after you bless me. Why? You have no sins. Blessings that comes out from you is Kodesh Kodashim. Kodesh Kodashim. So it's highly recommended that if somebody is somebody that's about to convert, is to get a blessing from them. Same thing also with a new couple after the chuppah. One of the presents that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives a newlywed couple at the chuppah, if it's a kosher chuppah, not if there's mixed dancing and things like that, because if there's mixed dancing and all types of other things that are forbidden by the Torah, then Hashem is not even there, he leaves. But if it's a kosher chuppah v'kiddushin, then a Shekhinah comes and wipes out the sins of the husband and the wife. They start also as a brand new baby. And that's a huge, huge gift that people get at their wedding. And as not that it's recommended for you to get married and divorced on a regular basis, but I even have a source that I got where we learned from my Rav that it is not only for one chuppah. I actually used to think that it's only the first time that you get married Hashem wipes out your sins. No, it's even if you get married another time, second time, third time, whatever, as long as it's a kosher wedding and it's for good reasons and so on, then Hashem actually gives you that gift each time you get married. Each time you get married. Again, of course, don't get married in order to get divorced, but obviously Hashem knows those things. But the point being is, the present that Hashem gives a newlywed couple is very similar to the present that He gives to a converts, where He wipes out their sins. They are brand new babies, and their birthday of the converts is officially the day they converted, not their biological birthday. The biological birthday has nothing to do with them anymore. You don't celebrate it anymore. It has nothing to do with you anymore, unless it's for legal reasons like your Social Security and your driver's license and government reasons. But for all intents and purposes, the new birthday is the day you converted, which is interesting because many times we have families that convert. A couple with a kid, a couple with a few kids, and so on. You have 4, 5, 6 people converting. Everybody has the same birthday. Every year. Everybody has the same birthday every year, which is really interesting. But also, if it's a couple, then they also have to get married that same day. So the birthday and the marriage are either the same day. Sometimes it's a day later. Why day later? They convert in the morning and they get married at night, which is in essence is 2 days. It's 2 different days. And that's actually what happened with my wife and I. She, Baruch Hashem, the greatest day of our life, complete a conversion in the morning at the Beit Din. We were on cloud 9 for the next several hours, and then we had a chuppah and kiddushin with Rabbi Zev Kadosh later that night. So our anniversary is the next day. The next day, Baruch Hashem. So that's the and again, this is all Hebrew calendar. Not Gregorian calendar, but that's the thing. So when a family converts, everybody has the same birthday every year on the same day, and it's highly recommended not to celebrate the Gregorian calendar birthday because it has nothing to do with you. Even if you didn't convert, the Gregorian calendar birthday really is not your birthday because of all of the defects in the Gregorian calendar that in reality. If you actually check the exact days and so on, you'll see that the day that you're celebrating, let's say for example today is your birthday. If you calculate, let's say you're turning 30 years old, if you calculate exactly 30 years behind, you'll see it's not the same day because the Gregorian calendar is completely defective, whereas the Hebrew calendar, the day that you were born is the day that is your actual birthday. So that's another reason, but it's even if you didn't convert. If you converted, needless to say, your Gregorian calendar birthday is completely insignificant. Thank you, Vimesh, for publicizing the links for people to watch the previews for the Tikkun ha-brit film, and also anyone that wants to partner in helping us distribute it by donating. Go to tikkunhabrit.live, and also anyone that wants to get a reminder that when the movie is coming out, just go to our, click on the link that Vimesh put, go to the YouTube page or the different newsletter we have and so on, and put it to be a reminder. Again, the premiere of it, I want to emphasize, the premiere of the movie is going to be like a live lecture, meaning that you won't be able to rewind it. Once it starts, it starts. So if you're 15, 20 minutes late, you're going to be missing the first 15 minutes until the whole thing is over, and then you'll be able to see it from the start, from the beginning after that. But that's the way we're having it. All right. Boal Maccabee, if you are courting / dating a girl, do you still have to try to avoid looking at her as much as possible? Are FaceTime calls allowed when you could do a regular phone call instead? Very good question in regards to Jewish dating. When you're dating a Jewish girl, you have to look at her, and she has to look at you in order to make sure that there is an attraction there. There are 2 main things that are important in a relationship in Judaism, which is number 1, you have to have a attraction to each other. You can't be disgusted by each other.
everybody's got their types and so on, but don't go crazy over it. Like a lot of people end up, staying single into their 30s, 40s, and pretty much permanently because they're so picky. Even the Gemara says, person that wants to get married has to lower their standards. If you're going to keep your standards, you're simply not going to find somebody most of the time. Why? Because people are delusional about the things that they want. I'm not saying go look in the garbage pail and find somebody and marry them, but again, people need to understand that they can't expect their fantasy of filth to be fulfilled on their wedding day. They have to know that they're looking for a wife, not used property. Point being is that you have to make sure that you have attraction to that person. She has to obviously have some type of attraction to you as well. It doesn't matter if you're attracted to her. If she's not attracted to you, then you're not going to have anything. Generally speaking, women are more commonly attracted to personalities, more so than men, because women are smarter in that aspect. It's highly advisable for men to also look into our personality, not just our looks, because you're not marrying the looks. You're marrying the personality. That's the only thing that's going to stay. And that's why the second thing and most important when it comes to marriage is to have the same ideology or similar ideology, where you both have similar beliefs, similar ways of viewing the world. Meaning, if, let's say, for example, you are a student of mine, you watch my lectures, you've been in here, and she is a Dror Kasuto, Manis Friedman, and Mervis and Goldberg fan, you're never going to be able to succeed in marriage. Why? It's just not going to happen. You can try it, and then call me after you get divorced. I'll try to help you find a second wife. It's just simply not going to work. Not going to work. So you have to have similar ideologies. You don't necessarily both need to be my students, but you have to have similar ideologies. One thing I've found very fascinating is that anytime I introduce two of my students to each other, it is Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. If there's an attraction there, it is almost certain that they're going to get married right away. Why? Because the ideology is already the same before they even talked. Why? Because they both, consumed the same beautiful Torah. The same holy Torah, same emet. They both like it. They both celebrate it. They both want it. So really, the only thing that's missing is the attraction. If the attraction is there, that's it. They get married. And that's actually what happened several times with Baruch Hashem. Kadosh Baruch Hu had mercy on me and allowed me to help a few of my students get married. And that's it. It's mamash. It's the easiest thing in the world. Easiest thing in the world. But again, if somebody is a picky person, if somebody is a prejudiced person, if somebody is a person that has things that conflict with what we teach, then of course, not only are they not my student, but also they will not have the same fortune as the other students that we have that literally met and got married like a month and a half later. And I've had this, Baruch Hashem, a few times already. Baruch Hashem happened. It's amazing. It's amazing. So again, ideology and attraction. So with that being said, in order to know that you're attracted to somebody, you need to look at them. Does that mean that you just stare at them and start analyzing every pore in her face? No. You look at them. You see that you're attracted to this person, and be polite. Be polite, but don't start looking away and be overly righteous. No, I saw you. That's it. I can't look at you anymore. Yeah, the woman needs to know that you find her attractive. If you start being overly righteous and start looking away from her during the date, most likely there will not be a marriage. So you have to be able to look at the person while you're dating them, but in a respectable way, in a classy way, and not in a exotic way or a way where you're doing things that are forbidden. Same goes when it comes to if you're having phone calls. If you are long distance, let's say she is in Israel, you're in the US, or vice versa, or things like that, sometimes using the modern day technology of FaceTime and things like that is very much necessary because the picture will not suffice. So yes, it would be allowed, but again, you have to ask your rabbi and the shadchan and so on, a little bit more specific advice if they know you better than just this general advice that I just gave you. Next, can Kvod Rav make a live shiur on YouTube as well if it's not a difficulty? If it was not a difficulty, I would have done it. And unfortunately, it is a difficulty. When it's not a difficulty, we'll do it. B'ezrat Hashem. Not afraid to say, Tikkun ha-brit is how I discovered the truth of Judaism 3 years ago. David, it's not only you, but countless people really discovered Judaism because of Tikkun ha-brit, including, and listen to this, including people that have learned Torah their whole lives, that called me crying, thanking me, where they said, I finally did tshuva. I said, oh, so what you didn't keep Shabbat? He goes, no, I kept all the mitzvot. I said, how old are you? Oh, all the mitzvot. Oh, I'm 30 years old, 35 years old, 40 years old. I'm like, what do you mean so you just did tshuva? He says, my whole life, I was a robot. My whole life, I just did it because I was born this way. I didn't do it because I cared. I didn't do it because of anything. And now I realize why. I was constantly wasting seed. So all of the beautiful blessings that you're supposed to get and the feeling you're supposed to get from doing what Hashem says, I never had it. Why? Because I was constantly wasting seed and never getting any of the blessings. All of the blessings were going out. As soon as I realized that I have a problem after I watched one of your lectures, I started watching more of your lectures about Tikkun ha-brit, and I realized that that's what's missing. And since that person stopped wasting seed, it's Judaism, he looked at it a completely different way. And it's not one story, it's not 10, it's not 100, and it's not 1,000. It's literally tens of thousands of people, tens of thousands, and I'm not exaggerating here, tens of thousands of people have watched our lectures and have changed their lives for the better because of the Tikkun ha-brit. This is why I continue to teach it, I continue to learn about it, and I continue to do as much as I possibly can for people around the world in regards to this. Mainly because if you can get, let's say for example, somebody to learn Torah, that doesn't mean you're going to get him to be a righteous person. Why? Because there's several people that you see, they learn Torah, but they're still wicked. If you get somebody to keep Shabbat, let's say, that's good too. But sometimes that person's still going to go to Gehinom for eternity. Why? He's still wasting seed. He's still wasting seed. So, but if you get a person to do real tshuva, which begins with wasting, stop wasting seed, but stop wasting seed for the right reason, not for the wrong reason, which is a lesson of itself. Person stops wasting seed, all of a sudden, all of the mitzvot become beautiful to him. All of a sudden, he wants to keep Shabbat. All of a sudden, he wants to learn Torah. All of a sudden, he wants to do a lot of good things, and you see that he can do everything, and he becomes a real Baal Tshuva. Now, sometimes you'll see somebody stop wasting seed. This is rare, but it does happen. You see a person stop wasting seed, but they still sin elsewhere. They still don't want to learn Torah. They're still arrogant. They're still stealing. They're still lying. They're still a piece of garbage. And, that they were from beforehand, but not in like I'm trying to insult, but in essence, before they learned the Torah, they were stealing from the whole world. They were robbing the whole world. They were doing everything. And now, all of a sudden, they have this mitzvah of they're protecting their brit. That person did not do tshuva. Why? He's now protecting his brit for different reasons. It's not because the Torah says it. It's not because the Torah says it. Sometimes people get a certain level of kavod that they feel that gives them the strength to protect their brit, but this is not long lasting. This is usually something that eventually breaks, and ultimately they go back to being what they were. A person that does tshuva for the brit in a real way is a person that can become a ish kadosh, mamash kadosh, a person that you can go to and ask them for blessing because they're a holy person. You see, those people, they protect their mouth, they protect their behavior, they protect how they behave with money, they protect their marriage, they protect their mind, they want to learn, they want to do things. People that protect their brit seriously and genuinely are mamash anashim kdoshim. They're very, very unique people. And you can tell the difference between somebody that does and someone that doesn't. Or at least I can, Baruch Hashem, it's one of the blessings that Kadosh Baruch Hu gave me. Some people, you could simply tell. Point being is that the behavior of someone at Shomer Brit is significantly different. So you're not the only one, David, that discovered Judaism from this. Many people, even people that were born Jewish and were religious their whole life, say to me, I finally did tshuva after I watched your shiurim, including guys that are in yeshiva, avrechim, and in a few cases, even rabbis. even rabbis. So Baruch Hashem, that's why Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says in the Zohar Kadosh, in the Ikvita de Mashiach, at the time before Mashiach, the Tikkun of the generation will be Tikkun ha-brit. Those that do tshuva for the Brit will see Pnei Mashiach, will see Mashiach. Why? Because they'll have the ability to become tzaddikim. But those that do not will not see Pnei Mashiach, will not see Gan Eden, will see nothing. So it's Tikkun of the generation. It's all or nothing when it comes to Tikkun ha-brit. But again, it's not easy. It's not something that's done overnight for most people. But nonetheless, a person needs to learn about it and do everything possible to overcome the obstacles. Is Gan Eden still on earth but just hidden? Or was it transported to Shamayim? Are all the deceased tzaddikim in Gan Eden, Adam Chava, or in? Or is it a different Gan Eden? We answered this kindly last week. There is two Gan Edens. There is Gan Eden Tachton, Gan Eden Elyon. The lower Gan Eden, the upper Gan Eden. The lower Gan Eden is a physical Gan Eden that is on earth itself. That's where Adam and Chava were. It wasn't transported anywhere. It is still on earth. It's just that we don't know where it is. There is some Chachamim, some people that actually got to it, found it, but were not allowed to enter it. There was someone that did enter it but did not want to leave. That's Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. It's in the Gemara. Says that Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, I believe it's Masechet Bava Metzia. Says Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi got into Gan Eden and made a swear that he is not leaving, and because he never lied on anything in his entire life, Hashem allowed him to enter Gan Eden alive and simply leave the world that way without ever dying. He's one of 10 people that never died. So that Gan Eden does exist. There is a Gan Eden Elyon, a spiritual Gan Eden that also exists. That is a different Gan Eden. And there's also Olam Haba. Olam Haba is different than both of them. Olam Haba is after Mashiach. Okay, the Gan Eden is the places before Mashiach. Before Mashiach. Then there is after Mashiach, which is Olam Haba, which is a topic of its own. Let's see. Olam Haba is something that's relatively extensive. David will have to do a shiur about it at some point, not today. Leah Levitan, did Moshe Rabbeinu get punished for saving the baby from dying in Egypt? Hashem told him not to, but let him do it anyways, and he later became the cause of the golden calf. Came alive by throwing a piece of metal. Okay? So if Moshe would have listened to Hashem, there would be no golden calf. Yes, so it's not that Moshe Rabbeinu got punished for it, but rather Moshe Rabbeinu saw the consequences of doing things that are of his own mind, if you will, and not Hashem's mind, and that wasn't the only thing. In fact, the entire golden calf issue is not just because of Micha, but also because of the Erev Rav. Who are the Erev Rav? Erev Rav were different Goyim, Egyptians, that after they saw that Am Yisrael won and Hashem destroyed the Egyptians, they wanted to join the Jewish people. And they said, we'll convert, we believe in your God, and so on and so forth. But in reality, they were liars. They were fake converts. And Moshe accepted them into the nation without consulting Hashem. He figured that they're genuine. He accepted them without consulting Hashem, and they ended up becoming the Erev Rav. So it's not that Moshe Rabbeinu was punished for it, but we see from Parashat Ki Tisa that Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, your nation sinned. Meaning, what do you mean your nation sinned? Your nation meaning your Erev Rav. Your Erev Rav, those fake converts that you brought on board without consulting me, they're the ones that brought the golden calf to the world and caused the rest of the nation to sin. It's your nation. And that's so in essence, Moshe Rabbeinu suffered enough by seeing the consequence of that, his actions. But no, he did not get punished for it. It's just that he suffers when he sees that until this day, his descendants and we and the rest of Klal Yisrael is suffering because of that golden calf. But needless to say, Moshe Rabbeinu is a Kodesh Kodeshim, is the highest level a human being has ever reached. He's the prophet of all prophets. He's the Isha Elokim. He's someone that no one will ever be like. He's the smartest human being that ever lived, even more than Shlomo HaMelech. So how come they say that Shlomo HaMelech is the smartest, wisest man of all time? Because he's compared to other men. Moshe Rabbeinu was not even considered 100% a man anymore. He was considered like half angel, half man. That's how holy he was. He was so holy that his neshama did not want to leave his body, because he sanctified his body so much that the body was in line with the neshama. And when the Malach HaMavet came to take the neshama out of Moshe Rabbeinu's body, his body and neshama was so strong spiritually that he beat up the Malach HaMavet. Malach HaMavet ran away from him. And the only way for Moshe Rabbeinu to leave this world was for Hashem himself to give him a kiss. And that's in essence what happened. Hashem gave Moshe Rabbeinu a kiss, and he took his neshama out himself. So even the Mashiach Tzidkenu that's coming will not be as high as Moshe Rabbeinu. We have no concept of the Gdula of Moshe Rabbeinu, no concept whatsoever. And despite how great he was, he would look at someone that had tzarat, someone that had a disease called tzarat that's considered as if the person's dead. Okay, it's a person that type of disease has no cure other than Hashem simply accepting that person's tshuva. There is no medicine that can fix it. There is no doctor that can do anything for it. It's the worst of the worst. It's only Hashem decides to remove it. And Moshe Rabbeinu would look at someone that had tzarat and find things to admire about them and think of himself as lower than them. It's the significance of Moshe Rabbeinu is humility, is conviction, is kedusha, is something out of this world. Where the Gemara says that when Hashem took Moshe Rabbeinu out of this world, Hashem started crying hysterically. Why did Hashem cry? He says, no one will ever rebuke, no one will ever give musar, no one will ever scare my nation like Moshe Rabbeinu. No one. Why? Moshe Rabbeinu was Kodesh Kodeshim. Kodesh Kodeshim. Moshe Rabbeinu was something out of this world where Moshe Rabbeinu, he got the entire Torah at Mount Sinai. But he didn't give it to us. He didn't give us the entire Torah. He gave us what's called the essence of the Torah. So when Hashem gave him the entire Torah, the Malach HaMavet went crazy. Gemara Masechet Shabbat. Malach HaMavet went crazy. What do you mean? How can you give the Torah to a human being? Where's this Torah? Where's the Torah? He came to Moshe Rabbeinu. He's like, you have the Torah? Moshe Rabbeinu, me, I have the Torah. I have the Torah. So Hashem gets involved in a conversation between Malach HaMavet and Moshe Rabbeinu. He says, Moshe, you're fibbing. Why, are you lying? He says, no, Hashem, how could a person like me have a Torah? It's your Torah. Hashem says to him, because you humble yourself, the Torah will be called after you. 5 books of Moses. But what did he actually really give us? He gave us the essence of the Torah. He had the entire Torah, but he only gave us the essence of the Torah because the world could not handle the real Torah. In essence, that's what the angels, including the Malach HaMavet, were going crazy over. Like, how can you give the Torah to human beings? They can't handle it. Physically, spiritually, they can't handle it. So how can you give it to them? So Hashem said to them, don't worry, I'm not giving them the whole Torah. I'm giving the whole Torah to Moshe, but he's only going to give the people the essence of the Torah. The essence of the Torah, of course, is an ocean that never ends. In essence, that's also answers the question of people that say, what do we do in Gan Eden, in Olam Haba? You say they learn Torah. Yeah, but what does somebody like Rabbi Akiva do in Olam Haba? He's still learning Torah. How? He knew everything. No, he didn't know everything. He knew a lot of Torah, but he knew the Torah from the essence of the Torah. The essence of the Torah. To get to the Torah itself, that you can only do in Olam Haba. So that's something that Moshe Rabbeinu was able to even do in Olam Hazeh, because he is the only one that was privy to that. Even though Rabbi Akiva got to the highest level of Kedusha, 50th level of Kedusha, okay, and Moshe Rabbeinu, some say, only got to 49th level of Kedusha. He got to the 50th level of Nevuah, which is prophecy, whereas nobody else ever even got close to that. But Kedusha, in holiness, Rabbi Akiva got to the highest level, but still, that was based off of the essence of the Torah, not the Torah itself. That was only given to Moshe Rabbeinu. So the point is that Moshe Rabbeinu was judged differently than the rest of mankind. Moshe Rabbeinu was judged in a unique way, and Moshe Rabbeinu was also not your average person. Moshe Rabbeinu was part of the original creation of the world, and he was multiple carnations. He was, the Arizal says in Sha'ar Gilgulim, that Moshe Rabbeinu was, first and foremost, he was Evel. Adam Arishon had Cain and Abel. He was Evel. Evel was a sinless person. He never made a single sin. He got murdered. Okay? Then he was Seth. He reincarnated Seth. Then he reincarnated in Noach's son, Shem. He was Shem. He was Noach. He was Noach. Then he was one of the descendants of Noach, eventually getting to be Moshe Rabbeinu. There was, I believe, five reincarnations for Moshe Rabbeinu. 5 reincarnations, if I remember correctly. 5, or it may be 6, but I think it's 5. 5 reincarnations of Moshe Rabbeinu. So, point being is, he was the perfect human being. So, he was judged differently, and it's simply not enough that we could ever say about him. Robert Romero is asking, Emunah and Bitachon series. In the process of conversion and moving to a Jewish community, I noticed huge resistance, both spiritually and physically, to the point of breaking. Question is, how to avoid or lessen this resistance in a second round of trying? Well, first and foremost, you should know that it is not going to get less. It's not going to less. To expect conversion or tshuva to be easy is simply not a realistic thing, because you have to understand that so long as a person is not following what Hashem said, okay, and he's making sins, that means that in essence, he is not on Hashem's army, he's on the Satan's army. So the Satan wants this person to continue making sins, because as he's making sins, he's continuing to produce more and more demons, more and more soldiers that are creating more havoc in the spiritual world and giving the Satan more and more power. So when a person wants to convert and wants to leave all of the tumah of the idolatry, completely forsake it, and not only that, but actually accept the highest level of Kedusha by becoming an actual Jew, the Satan will not let that happen easily. Simply not going to let that happen easily. And in fact, I tell this to every one of my converts from day one. The closer you get to the actual conversion day, the more difficulties you will have. Things you never even imagined that were going to happen may happen, and in many cases do happen. Things are difficult. To tell you that, it is going to be smooth sailing, you're going to learn some books, and you're going to move, and everything's going to work out, doesn't work that way. The closer you get to conversion, in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases, the more difficult it becomes. The good news is that I tell people, and I've seen it with my own eyes, is that if a person had a difficult time before conversion, typically their after conversion is much smoother, much smoother, especially the first year. There's a lot of blessings and a lot of extraordinary miracles that happen after conversion, especially for those that had a very difficult time converting and a lot of obstacles they had to overcome. There's one thing that could give them some encouragement, is that after conversion there's a lot of big miracles that happen. It doesn't mean that the rest of their life is easy, but usually there is a lot of blessings that I've seen with my own eyes that people that have a tough time before conversion get after that conversion, for at least the first year, sometimes even more than 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Depends on different people. there are some cases where people have an easier time converting. Where I read a story about someone, I don't know the person personally, who actually used to be a priest. And he discovered the truth. He was living in Texas. He discovered the truth. And him and his family all converted. He said that it all happened within less than a year. And they were already living in Israel. And he was learning in a yeshiva. And that's it. Like he said, I don't know what people experience, but he said in an article that I read years ago, he said, our conversion was easy, amazing, and extraordinary. Now, I could say, obviously, I believe that what he's saying. I don't see a reason why he would lie. So how do you explain such a thing? I think it's relatively simple to explain it by simply understanding of what he sacrificed. Now, he may not view what he sacrificed as difficult because he knew that he's sacrificing falsehood. But in the eyes of Hashem, he sacrificed something very difficult. He sacrificed an entire lifetime of teaching falsehood, a church, tons of money, and so on and so forth. So that was enough difficulty for him that there was no needed for him to overcome any other obstacles. Other people that are not in that type of position, like Yitro, that was a Vayishma Yitro, that the Parsha of Matan Torah is called after him, who forsake the idolatry that he was the leader of. People that don't have that kind of sacrifice typically have other sacrifices that they have to make, monetary sacrifices, marriage sacrifices, and so on. And the key to understand is that if somebody wants to become part of Hashem's army, but not just the army that's just a member and you're doing the best that you can, but rather the upper echelon of the army. He wants to be one of the generals. He wants to be one of the chosen people. He could be a righteous Noahide. She could be a righteous Noahide, but of course their obligation is lower, and thereby their reward is lower. On the other hand, if he wants to be one of the generals, he wants to be one of the chosen people, their obligation is higher, and so is the consequences if they don't deliver. So of course there's going to be more that is required and expected from such a person, just like it is in the regular world. So, but if a person goes into it with that mindset, not looking for a smooth ride, not looking for anything, just simply, I'm going to do my job no matter what. I'm going to do my best, I'm going to learn my best, I'm going to make the sacrifices, I'm going to pray to Hashem, and simply wait for Him to eventually open the door for me, because I'm not going to stop knocking. It's just simply, I'm going to do everything I can, and Hashem is eventually, going to accept me, whenever that's going to be. A month from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, whenever it happens. And that's the thing. If he does that, if she does that, they will eventually succeed in becoming not only a Jew, but a righteous Jew. But if a person has expectations and a predisposition of what they expect the community to be such way, they expect the monetary situation to be such a way, they expect knowledge to be such a way, the rabbis to be such a way, everything is conditions. Generally speaking, they never succeed, and if they succeed in becoming a Jew, they become many times one of the most problematic Jews that exist in the world. And unfortunately, I've seen some of them. Baruch Hashem, none of them are my students, but I've seen some people that have converted that literally fulfill the words of the sages that converts are a skin disease to the people. Converts are a skin disease to the people, the Gemara says. Why does the Gemara say that converts are a skin disease to the Jewish people when the Torah mentions 36 different times that converts are very special, that you have to love a convert even more than you love a natural born Jew, so much so that the Rambam says you have to love a convert as much as you love God? Why would the Gemara say, that preceded the Rambam, that converts are like a skin disease to the Jewish people? So the Gemara explains, and the Chachamim explain on this, as now, number one, if the convert is a righteous convert, if it's a righteous convert, then he's so righteous that he makes the Jews that are not as righteous, second guess themselves, jealous. It's annoying to see this new guy, he's only a Jew for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, completely in love with Hashem, learning Torah non-stop, doing all the mitzvot. This woman, Tzadika, Kisurosh on day one, she loves Hashem, she doesn't care about anything else but Hashem, whereas me, I'm a Jew my whole life, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and I'm barely going to pray, I'm barely want to do Pesach, I'm barely this, I'm barely that. So it's a little annoying for the natural-born Jew, but that's in essence the rebuke on the natural-born Jew. Look, you have no excuses. This guy's a new guy. This girl's a new girl, and she is consuming Hashem as much as she possibly can. So that's like a skin disease. It's annoying. On the other hand, if it's not a righteous convert, then I've seen with my own eyes how this is fulfilled in this generation. People convert for the wrong reasons. People convert and they should really never have converted because they have some conditions, they have some requirements, they have a chip on their shoulder, they think that they're better than everybody else, they think the world owes them something, the community owes them something, they walk into the community expecting the whole community to fund their life, they walk into the community expecting everybody to kiss their feet, they walk into the community expecting everybody to just stop their life just because they're a convert. And these people are a nightmare. Nightmare to the Jewish community. They create the most amount of problems, biggest machloket, and literally they're very, very easy to understand why they're compared to a skin disease, because their annoyance is never over. They are people that always have a problem with everyone. Nothing is ever good. You give them what they want, it's still not good enough. You don't give them what they want, it's not good. Everything is not good for them. And they're constantly in battles and lawsuits and all types of conspiracies and all types of scandals and all types of victimized behavior, and literally a nightmare. Nightmare. This is also something that you live and learn. You see this, you see certain people, they converted with somebody that just simply wanted their money. Somebody just wanted to tell people that they convert people. So in reality, they didn't verify that this person really even should be a Jew. They just converted this person. And you see, those people, more times than not, become the biggest problems in the world. It's usually the people that didn't have a difficult time converting. And even if they did, it's really because of them. They should have never converted. Hashem was trying to discourage them from converting. But the point being is that those converts are a nightmare. I've seen them, and it's unfortunately, it's a never-ending thing. So that's why they're a skin disease. So what I would recommend for anyone that wants to convert to Judaism is to know, if you want to be part of the Jewish people and be on the righteous side, be on the good side, expect sacrifice. Expect sacrifice. And be ready for sacrifice. Welcome sacrifice. And do everything you possibly can to be accepted by Hashem and the Jewish people. Don't go against the Jewish people. Don't mock the Jewish people. Don't frown upon the Jewish people. Don't call the Jewish people that they're not religious enough because you think that since you converted, you're better than them. These are all bad mentalities. If you want to be part of the good part of Am Yisrael, the first and most important thing that a person needs to know is to be part of Am Yisrael. To be part of Am Yisrael, it's not just about following mitzvot and knowing who God is. But to be part of Am Yisrael, you have to love Am Yisrael. And you say, no, I love God. I don't have to love Am Yisrael. No. You have to love Am Yisrael. Why you have to love Am Yisrael? Because if you really love God, you would love what He loves. And He loves Am Yisrael. Which means if you don't love Am Yisrael, there's a problem with you. There's a problem with you. You think maybe you're supposed to be different. So again, I'm not saying to go love every atheist Jew out there in the world. But the point being is that you have to make sure that you see the good in Am Yisrael, especially the religious people, the ones that are not religious. Be helpful to them, not critical of them. Be rebuking from love, not rebuking from ego. Be someone that is trying to learn, not only trying to disseminate your ideas. Be somebody that's accepting the Torah from the Chachamim, not someone that's trying to tell the Chachamim what to do. Be somebody that's trying to get accepted into the community, not someone that's trying to shake up the community. People that want to do all those things, that want to shake up the community, they want to renew things and so on, those are the skin disease. Those are the Erev Rav. Those are the problem. And even if they have a kisui rosh on their head, even if they have a long beard, and even if they have all types of accents, if they are trying to go against the tradition, They go against the Chachamim. They don't accept. They don't accept Judaism for what it is. They want a new version of some kind. They think they're smarter than the rabbis, and so on. These people, for sure, skin disease, and very likely also part of the Erev Rav. Like, I can assure you that virtually, without even knowing all of them, Asher Meza and his army of people, almost every single person that he's associated with is part of the Erev Rav. Why? You simply see every single one of the people that goes through him is a person that's full of animosity against the sages, full of mockery against the sages, full of hatred against the Rabbanut, full of hatred against pretty much all the good parts of Judaism, not the bad parts. Surely there's bad stuff and we go against it ourselves, but he's against the good parts. He simply thinks that he has a better version of Judaism than everybody else. So his students follow the same thing, and in reality, you see his idol worship type conversion, mass conversions that he does every month, or at least he says does every month on a beach, is in a place that you're not even allowed to be in. It's in a place of immorality. The men and women are swimming. People are practically half naked or completely naked over there. And he has men and women dipping right next to each other. It's a shemishmo. They don't even arrive modest to the conversion. They don't even know what modesty is, b'chlal, the women. You see, the people are there, literally. You look at them, you look at someone that just goes to attend church, you can't tell the difference. Why? Because it's the same thing with him. He himself is the same thing. Asher Meza. People, that's the skin disease, but it's not just the skin disease. That is Erev Rav. That's Erev Rav. He says he has converted over 1,000 people, where he admits over 50% of them are not accepted in any community. So already he destroyed the lives of over 500 people, and he admits it, and he doesn't realize that he destroyed the lives of those 500 people, because in reality, if their conversions are not accepted in any community, then what does that mean? That means that no one's going to marry their kids, no one's going to want them to be part of their community, no one's going to invite them to a seder, no one's going to do anything with them, no one wants to deal with them, no one's going to accept them to schools, literally ruining their lives. And look, he just says it in passing. He continues to do it every Sunday. The reality is, those students, they're not victims. They're not victims. They wanted what he offered, and they got it. They didn't think there's going to be consequences like they got, but they got it. But the reality is, that's a problem. Now, of course, there's always going to be a diamond in the rough. Of course, it's going to be a diamond in the rough, just like every tree has a bad apple. So occasionally you will meet a decent person that came from this Amalek Meza and his teacher Prager and the rest of these people. Sure, you're going to have a few good apples here and there, a few diamonds in, of course. But generally speaking, you see, large number, Amaleks, Erev Rav, anti-Torah mentality, heretics, Nevalim Birshut Torah, despicable in the name of the Torah. And literally, he has like all, categories. Just like a website has tabs. He has tabs. Amalek section, Erev Rav section, Kofir section, that section. What? That's the way he teaches. That's the way he behaves. That's the way that's it. That's his image. And he likes it. He likes it, and his followers like it. Simple. But if you want to avoid such a thing, you have to not only accept the Torah, but you have to accept it with humility no matter what. Just like it says in the book of Proverbs, in chapter 28, Ozve Torah ya'alelu rasha, v'shomre Torah yitgaru bam. Anshe ra lo yavinu mishpat u'mevakshei Adonai yavinu kol. The book of Proverbs, chapter 28, verse number 4 and 5, says, those who forsake the Torah praise the wicked. You see, Meza, who does he praise? He praises Prager, he praises Christians, he praises anybody that's practically anti-Torah, praises them. He likes them. All of his interviews, debates, his friends, one after another is a bigger heretic. That's who his friends are. Show me one time that he's actually talking to and befriending a real serious Talmid Chacham and they're actually agreeing. Anytime he's had anyone that's a real Talmid Chacham or someone at least that is a decent person, they don't agree on anything. Why? Because no normal person agrees with such a person. Why? Because he's a person that forsakes Torah, and he therefore praises the wicked. But a person that keeps the Torah, Shlomo HaMelech says, the keepers of Torah, they fight those people. They fight those people that praise the wicked. Why? Because the men of evil will not discern the inevitable judgment, but those who seek Hashem will understand all. People that are evil don't have any concept, any understanding, any tolerance or acceptance of there being eventually a judgment, a Gehinom, a kafakela. They make fun of it. They think, nah, it's all nonsense. Gehinom is just some place. And he made a video, that Rasha Meza, years ago, where he goes to some place. He said, look, there's just a hill. It's just a town called Gehinom. There is no such thing as Gehinom. Makes fun of the whole thing and so on. How much stupidity of stupidity. But why? Because of his wickedness and people like him. Their wickedness, it's not that they're making fun of Gehinom because they believe in it. No, they can't even comprehend that there's a consequence for their actions. But yet, those who really seek Hashem, you wanna connect to Hashem, you're seeking Hashem, you're doing everything possible to humble yourself and do everything possible to serve Hashem in whatever capacity He gave you. Those who seek Hashem understand all. What do you mean understand all? I understand that there's a consequence if I fail in serving Hashem. I understand that there is a difficulty in serving Hashem. I understand that there is a reward and punishment. I understand everything. And when a person understands the reward and punishment, understands the requirement, understands what is necessary in order to get to be an Eved Hashem, in order to get to be even a righteous Jew, that person builds that whole foundation off of his understanding of judgment, Gehinom, consequences. And he knows this is the risk. It's not a matter of, I want to do this so I go to Gan Eden. It's a matter of, like Rabbi Yisrael Misalan says, that even if all of the mitzvot were just for the sake of avoiding the consequence of going to Gehinom, it's still good. It's still good. But people that don't know what Gehinom is, they are focused on rewards, they're focused on getting money, they're focused on getting stuff. Person doesn't understand what the consequences are. Person understands the consequences, he starts building his whole foundation of serving Hashem in order to avoid the consequences. And what ends up happening as a result, unlike what most people think, oh, it's depressing, he's constantly thinking he's going to be punished, opposite. Because he's constantly trying to avoid it, he's doing everything possible. She's doing everything possible to be righteous. And the more righteous you are, the more invigorating your life is, the more fulfilling your life is, the more you understand the difficulties of the world because you see the world clearly. And instead of looking at a white board that has a black dot on it and focusing on the black dot, you understand that although there's a black dot in your life, you have a health issue, you have a monetary issue, you have all types of issues. There's a black dot in your life. You see the white. Why? Because the white is the blessing that a Kadosh Baruch Hu gave you. He gave you a wife. He gave you a husband. He gave you kids. He gave you parents. He gave you siblings. He gave you a job. He gave you eyes. He gave you the ability to read the truth, to speak the truth, to listen. He gave you money. He gave you food. He gave you air in your lungs. He gave you so much. Instead of focusing on the negativity, on the bad parts of the world that Hashem is putting you through, you focus on the white. And what ends up happening when you focus on the white, the black no longer has as much value. Yes, it's still there. The difficulty is still there. But I'm not harping on it. I'm not focusing on it. Why? Because I'm focusing on the blessings. But that cannot be just by simply being like some Barbie doll thinking you have a positive mentality. No, that's only if I get myself to understand what the consequences are if I fail in serving Hashem, and therefore use that as the fuel to do everything possible to run away from things that are against Hashem. So I start doing things that Hashem wants me to do, things that are good according to the Torah. I do more good, more good, more good. I distance myself away from the sins, and that purifies my neshama. And little by little, I start seeing the world in a clearer way. And suddenly, the difficulties that I do have, although they don't always disappear, although Hashem may actually want them to be there, I now have the ability to look at those difficulties from the right perspective, where I see, yes, there's a difficulty, but look at how many blessings I have. Yeah, my legs hurt, but my arms don't. Yeah, I didn't get the job, but I have a job now. Yeah, we didn't have another kid, but we already have a few kids. Yeah, but we didn't buy the house, but we still have a roof on top of our heads, and so on and so forth. You look at all of the blessings that you have. You look at all the blessings that you have, and you see the world clearer. When you see the world clearer, your life turns into Gan Eden, despite the difficulties. But this is only possible if a person has the right ideology. That ideology begins with accepting the Torah and not fighting against it, not forsaking it like these Erev Rav do typically. We'll have maybe one or two more questions and we're finished for tonight. Is it true that Mashiach will be a Gilgul of David HaMelech? Is this why the Mashiach is referred to as David and Yechezkel? No, so the Mashiach is going to be a nitzotz, a spark of the neshama of David and a spark of the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu. Not mamash David HaMelech and not mamash a Moshe Rabbeinu, but a spark of their neshama. A spark of their neshama is going to be in the Mashiach itself. But it's not going to be David, because when there is the Mashiach comes and eventually there is the resurrection of the dead, David HaMelech and Moshe Rabbeinu will also be resurrected. So despite the Mashiach himself being there, both Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef are going to be there, and also Moshe Rabbeinu and David HaMelech and all of the patriarchs and matriarchs and tzaddikim and so on. So, but the neshama of the Mashiach will be a spark of the neshamot of David and Moshe Rabbeinu. How do I do proper fast for wasting seed? Just one before I start giving money. Do I start sundown and go to next sundown? Is it 100% fast, no eating, no drinking? Asking as a Noahide. If you're a Noahide, you do not need to fast for the sake of Tikkun ha-brit. You can fast if you want, but it will not give you as much a fulfillment and spiritual significance as it would a Jew, since the Jews have clear instructions from Chachamim that they're required to fast. Better for you to invest in helping more people do tshuva for this issue and learning more about the issue yourself in order to stay strong in it than to focus on the fast itself. There's not as much value for bringing suffering on yourself as there is, let's say, for a Jew to do it. Nonetheless, even a Jew should focus more on helping other Jews learn about this topic, helping other Jews do tshuva for this specific issue, more so than on bringing personal suffering on themselves, such as by fasting. It's better to bring suffering to your pocket than to bring suffering to your body, because when you bring suffering to your pocket by spending a few $1,000s on a regular basis to help sponsor more and more Tikkun ha-brit in the world, by the different things that we do or other organizations do to help people do tshuva, that may bring some suffering, but again, it won't distract you from your learning Torah and doing more mitzvot and growing spiritually. Whereas when a person fasts, usually most people, when they fast, they have a very, very difficult time focusing, a very difficult time praying, very difficult time learning Torah at the same level. So it's not it doesn't give as much as it did for the previous generation and the tzaddikim that trained themselves spiritually to be able to perform at peak despite the fast, and even more so because of the fasts. So that's the thing. Chaim, can a Jew work as a butcher, meat cutter, and a non-kosher company with non-kosher animals where the product is intended for non-Jews? No, it will be very problematic because, again, number one, you're not really supposed to deal with non-kosher meat in general if you're a Jew. Aside from that, the way that the non-Jews kill their animals creates a lot of suffering. Either by electrocuting them or shooting them in the head or hitting them with hammers. The only non-Jews that slaughter their animals are typically Muslims, but they slaughter them in a very vicious way, which creates a lot of suffering to the animals. And although whether an animal suffers or doesn't suffer, that's not necessarily the only reason why it's what makes it kosher. But the point being is, for someone to create that suffering itself is a very, very big problem. Second thing is that they're still going to be involved in meat that Jews can buy, which in essence could be causing the public to sin. So that's another problem, and there's a whole list of issues that could be problematic with a Jew dealing with non-kosher meat. It's best for him to, if he wants to be in that business, to be with a kosher meat company and not a non-kosher meat company. Sarah Reynoso says, when it comes to modesty, are women allowed to wear their hair out if it's long? And when it comes to Tinok Shenishba, how far should you go to show people the way? So if a woman is married, a Jewish woman is married, she is obligated to cover her hair with a hat or a mitpachat. Obligated by the Torah to cover her hair with a hat or a mitpachat if she's married. She's not allowed to show her hair to anyone other than her husband and her small children, but only inside. She's not allowed to show her hair to other men and so on, as it says that the Kol ha'isha irva, everything in a woman is something that can lead people to thinking about a woman in an inappropriate way. Mostly her hair. A woman that has her hair showing, especially if it's hair that she worked on and so on, can cause men to think terrible thoughts that make her a partner to the sin. So a Jewish woman that's married must cover her hair. If she is divorced, she also must cover her hair, because she had to cover her hair when she was married, and we do not go down in kedusha, meaning if a woman gets divorced, she doesn't take off our kisui rosh, she keeps the kisui rosh on. But if she was never married, then she's allowed to have her hair out, but it should still be modest and in a ponytail or some type, or collected together in a modest and appropriate way. She shouldn't look like some horse running in the field with the tail everywhere and so on. That's not the way of Benot Israel. Kol kvoda bat melech pnima, all of the honor of a daughter of the king is inside. Not only inside spiritually, but also inside physically. She has to reserve her beauty to her privacy, to inside, for when she eventually gets married. As far as Tinok Shenishba, there's really very few people in the world that would really qualify to be a Tinok Shenishba. Just growing up secular does not make a person by default a Tinok Shenishba. I highly recommend people listen to a few lectures that I made about this subject. One particular one that was very extensive we did during our long 8 or 9 hour shiur we did on Sukkot. We cut a clip about Tinok Shenishba, that's about a half hour or 40 minutes, explains the whole issue of the Tinok Shenishba, captured baby. Either way, no matter what, whether he's really a Tinok Shenishba or he is not really a Tinok Shenishba, and he just thinks he is, or she thinks she is, still, don't keep them nishba. Don't keep them captured. Show them the truth. Show them the movie about my personal life, of how the fact that I grew up over 30 years with no real Torah education, no clue what I was doing in the world, and so on and so forth, didn't stop me from becoming someone that started keeping Torah and mitzvot and eventually teach other people. The fact that Avraham Avinu, his father, was an idol worshiper and a Walmart of idols, didn't stop Avraham from being Kodesh Kodeshim, the father of all Am Yisrael. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu grew up in Paro's house didn't stop him from being Moshe Rabbeinu. The fact that Rabbi Akiva didn't even know how to read or write or anything about Torah and actually hated Torah scholars until he was 40 years old did not stop him from becoming the biggest rabbi in history other than Moshe Rabbeinu, and so on and so forth. So don't keep them captured. Show them the movie about my personal life. Show them that the Torah is an obligation. Show them that you have the ability to learn, just like you learned a profession, just like you learned how to be better at certain things. You can learn how to fulfill your purpose in the world, and you should do whatever you can. I generally recommend for most people to not do it directly where they're speaking to the people most of the time, but rather to do it indirectly by having us speak to them, by giving them links of our lectures or our CDs, or get yourself a few of our USBs and give it to them, and invite them to lectures when we have live events, and have them hear this stuff from us as professional speakers that deal with it on a daily basis, because it also is easier to hear things from me when I'm speaking to the public than to hear things from somebody that's, let's say, their friend or family member or so on, where they feel it's more direct, like attack, and it sometimes can get to be very problematic. So generally speaking, you have to guide people to the best of your ability, but the Rambam paskins how much you have to rebuke a person. He says until that person hits you. Meaning you keep telling them they need to do tshuva, but of course from love, from a place of careness, not from a place of criticism. Even if you're criticizing them, you're only criticizing them because you love them. It's constructive criticism. Even if you're rebuking them, you're only rebuking them because you want to help them, not because you're a know-it-all. And the more you show them care, the more they'll be receptive to what you're doing and receptive to what you're giving them to learn, and they'll do tshuva that way. But you should do it as much as possible to the point where the Rambam says until they hit you. Meaning, so it's a bunch of times. Okay, last question for the night. Shalom Rabbi, I have a question. If Gehinom is for eternity, forever, why are there some people who do different things to try to help their soul, to get them out of there? They do things to elevate their soul, to tzaka, kaddish. It's possible to save a soul from Gehinom. It's only for Jews or even for Noahites. That's a very good question. So, not everybody gets judged to go to Gehinom forever. There are certain sins that a Jew makes that can put him in the category of going to Gehinom forever, but not every sin. Every sin has a certain statement, a certain amount of time, and depending on how big the sin is, whether it was on purpose or not, and how many times he made the sin. This is also one of the places that many of the rabbis that misspeak intentionally or unintentionally about Gehinom and tell people that it's only 1 year. This is one of the places where their logic simply goes into the garbage, because they don't realize that, yes, even if you want to say people go to Gehinom for 1 year, it's obviously cannot be true. Why? Because first and foremost, not everybody sins, the same sins. So you can't say that someone that raped 20 people and then someone that stole $50, they both go to Gehinom for a year. Now you're going to say, yeah, no, that guy goes for a year. He raped 50 people, and the guy that's 50 stole money, he goes there for 2 days. Okay, great. So what about if the guy that raped 50 people, okay, he goes for a year. What about if the guy that stole $50, he also killed 10 people? What happened to him? Oh, no. Now he goes for a year. Oh, so wait, so now this guy raped 50 people, and he didn't kill them. He gets the same sentence as somebody that killed 50 people? It's the same thing. And then all of a sudden you start seeing them get confused because they realize that their argument doesn't make any sense. Plus, especially since no one has one sin. Everybody has many sins. So you cannot get all of your 1 year in Gehinom for all of your sins. It doesn't make any sense. Point being is, some people go to Gehinom for a certain amount of time. That could be a month, could be a year, could be 50 years, could be 1,000,000 years. But the point being is, it is not forever. It's not forever. And then some people go there forever. What does it mean forever? Forever is for an extraordinarily, amount of time, to the point where their soul is eventually destroyed, which is after a very, very long time. Okay? In our numbers, it could be millions of years, but in essence, it is not something that's comprehensible to us. Nonetheless, it is eventually they get destroyed, but not until that the suffering takes place, because in order to destroy a neshama is not just putting it through a shredder. There's a process, if you will. But the point being is, not everybody goes to Gehinom forever. And even if somebody made certain sins that would typically put them in a caliber of going to Gehinom forever, it's always weighed against their merits and what they've left in this world, if they have certain things. Now, there is a Rishon, one of the sages from 900 years ago, that actually says outright that if somebody died a mechalel Shabbat b'mezid, meaning he violates Shabbat, knows what Shabbat is, but he violates Shabbat anyway, doesn't care, or let's say someone that wastes seed and knows that you're not allowed to and does it anyway, one of the karet sins that puts the person in a category of eternal Gehinom. Somebody like that died, there's nothing you could do for them. You could read Kaddish until you're blue in the face, it won't help them. There is a Rishon from 900 years ago that outright say that all the Kaddish in the world is not going to help those people. But there are some Chachamim that are just as great that disagree. Why are they disagreeing? They're disagreeing because they say, look, but we have some examples in the Gemara where Elisha Acher was someone that made very big sins, but he was the rabbi of, before he became a Rasha, he was the rabbi of Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes. So he died and he went to Gehinom, but eventually the Gemara says that he was taken out because of the prayers and merits and teachings and so on of Rabbi Meir's student, and then eventually also because of the prayers and merits of the teachings of Rabbi Yochanan. So a couple of generations of tzaddikim prayed to him and eventually took him out of Gehinom. So you see that there is a way to get them out of Gehinom. So that's the argument. The contrary argument, again, the rebuttal to that is like, yeah, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yochanan, maybe they can take somebody out of Gehinom. But are you Rabbi Meir? Are you Rabbi Yochanan? So that's the thing. A person needs to know. Once a person dies and they put themselves in a situation where they lived an entire life of sins, at the very least, they are not in an easy situation that will easily be solved. At all. It's not. Is it possible? We'd like to think it's possible, but there's no guarantee. And just saying Kaddish for someone, for sure, is not going to be enough. For sure, it's not going to be enough. There has to be more. It has to be Torah, has to be Chesed. In essence, someone has to make this like part of their lifelong projects and hope that they may be able to get this person out of Gehinom. Maybe. But that means that every time they do a mitzvah, every time they learn, every time they give tzedakah, and a lot of it for the sake of Torah, every time they do something, they have to also have this person in mind, and they have to do a lot more than typical. And especially if that person had money, and they left that person an inheritance, really what your person should do, they should literally take every dollar that person left them and give it for the sake of publicizing Torah. Why? Because if you're taking your money, and you're, let's say, donating $5,000, $500,000, whatever it is, for the sake of, let's say, a father or a mother that wasn't exactly righteous, it's good, but it's not the same as if you used their money that they left you. Why? Because when you use their money, it's as if they did it for themselves, which has a totally different weight and significance. So if somebody left people money, they should literally take every penny they have and donate it for their sake, if you really care about this person. If you don't care about this person, you care about the house that they gave you and the money that they gave you and all that other stuff, then the conversation is it's a moot point. But if somebody really cares about somebody and knows that person is in Gehinom, they should literally take every penny that they gave you and invest it in publicizing Torah. Why? Because that will at least give them a fighting chance to get out of the very, very deep and likely a permanent hole that they built for themselves. Likely a permanent, so that's the thing. So it's highly, highly recommended. It's definitely not easy. Definitely not easy, but we'd like to think it's not impossible, because there are some chachamim that say it's not impossible. Either way, doing the prayers and learning and the mitzvot and the kaddish for those people is still beneficial. Meaning, even if it doesn't take them out of the permanent Gehinom list, it still helps them because it lowers the suffering. Now, it may not mean much to certain people, but in the Gemara Masechet Kiddushin, talks about how there is a significance in trying to have, even if someone's sinning, to sin less. There's a significance in it because the punishment is less. Meaning that to us, we figure, if the guy's in Gehinom forever, what difference does it make? No, there is a difference. Why? Because when there is a punishment, when there is a suffering, there's no getting used to it. There's no getting used to the suffering. There's no getting used to pain. Anyone that has ever experienced a chronic pain knows that you never get used to the pain. It's always like it's brand new. It's just a reality. Now, for people that haven't experienced pain, it's impossible for them to comprehend what I'm saying, but I'll try to give you an understanding before we finalize this point. It's a very important point. So now, even if a person has put themselves in a situation where they are in a really, really terrible situation, in the Olam HaEmet, now you giving tzedakah for them, saying kaddish for them, learning Torah for their sake, doing something good for their sake, that means that they will be elevated in some way. They will suffer less in some way while you're doing it. So, let's say, for example, if there was, Shem Yishmo, if there was, let's say, 10 fires that were supposed to burn them to a crisp that day, they feel every single one as if it's independent. So there's several times where the Reshit Chokhmah and Gaon Vilna and some other Chachamim give serious details about certain people that Rabbi Yaron of certain people, what happens to them in Gehinom and how they're burned to pieces, and then they're resurrected, and then again Shem Yishmo. Rabbi Avraham Azulai says that literally for every sin that they made with the wasting seed, every single time they do it, they get burned for it again and again and again. It's a nightmare. Point being is, now, let's say, I can't believe I'm thinking of 10 times, let's say a person is going to get burned for that day, and you just donated some money, or you just did kaddish, or you just did something good for the sake of this person, and that lowers their burning from 10 to, let's say, 9 or 8. Now, they may not seem significant to you, like, they're suffering anyway. To them, trust me when I tell you, it's significant. It's significant. It's very significant. Very, very significant. So, it behooves a person that loves another person to do everything possible to help them. And there are some success stories, to leave this on a good note, there are some success stories that I've heard from Rav Nisim Yagen and from Rabbi Yehuda and some other Chachamim that had awareness of the other side and have written about it, talked about it, and where they did do a tikkun for certain neshamot and got them out of the permanent hole that they were in. There is some success. Now again, these are extraordinary cases, and I would not let anyone assume that it's an easy thing where if you just say Kaddish for them for a year, they're going to Gan Eden. Don't let anybody fool you. It's not, a person cannot live 50, 60, 70, 80 years and going against Hashem and simply be saved from all of it after a year of you saying Kaddish a few times a day. Like, you have to, use your brain. You can't just assume that a person can just go to war against Hashem and then be, saved from it just because somebody said a few words for a few months. It's obviously measure for measure in the world. But can it be done? There are some success stories. and I would recommend that people do everything possible to help those that have passed, because that's true chesed. But last point, don't make that your only goal in life, because there are even more people that are still alive that you can help. Okay, so you have to help those too. You know, the ones that have died, yeah, that's a big mission, but make sure that you're also living, in a way where you're helping the people that are alive. Okay, Rabotai Kareem, Tiskul Mitzvot Rabot. I'm a little tired. I think that we covered enough. There's Baruch Hashem, lots and lots of Torah to learn. We'll try to cover a little bit more to whatever we can to teach, to learn, and to sanctify Kadosh Baruch Hu's name. Remember, the movie is coming out on Sunday night. Anyone that wants to be a partner in it, go to Tikkun ha-brit.live. Tikkun ha-brit.live. Please share these lectures, subscribe to the channels, donate when you can. Try to encourage your friends to donate. Try to be part of everything that we're doing, because Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, in addition to saying that the tikkun of the generation is tikkun ha-brit, he also taught us that gadol ha-me'aseh min ha-oseh. Greater is the one that causes other people to do mitzvot, to do good things, than the one that's actually doing it. So you can donate $1,000 or $10,000 or whatever you want to donate. But guess what? Although you should do it, although it's good to do it, it's even better to get your friend to do it too. It's even better. You'll get more reward for getting your friend to donate that $1,000 or $10,000 or $10 or whatever it is. I'm just throwing numbers. It's even greater to get your friends to do it and your parents to do it and everybody else to do it. Why? That's the way the Torah works. That's the way the Torah works. So please, get people to subscribe, get people to donate, get people to watch for free. Do something is my point. It doesn't always have to be about money. Do something. Why? Right now, we are in a situation where, I'm not going to expand on this, but we are in a situation where each one of us is being given last chance. We're at that point. We'll leave it at that point. At that, I promise you, you won't be disappointed with this movie. It'll help each and every single one of us, Be'ezrat Hashem, and those that share it, those that support it, those that watch it and learn from it and follow it are praiseworthy. And remember, Vaya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shmo echad. And that day, Hashem will be the king of all of the land. And that day, God's name will be one, and He will be one.
You know when you have a dream and you see a pretty woman? You've had that? Now you never actually see an ugly woman in dreams. It's always a pretty woman. And by the way, it's always the same woman for all of us. All of us have a dream of the same exact woman. And she's more dangerous than the Satan himself. not even allowed to say her name. What are you gonna call her for?
It functions very much like drugs. People are addicted to it.
I tried to quit dozens of times, hundreds of times.
My fantasies and stuff, they're not mine anymore.
Cabinet ministers, judges, diplomats, even one of the country's top spies. These men are accused of some of the most sadistic child sexual abuse imaginable on hundreds of victims.
It shouldn't take over your whole life. If you satiate it, you're never gonna have enough. If you starve it and only feed it when it's permissible according to the Torah, you're always gonna be happy.